Hello and welcome to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side Podcast. My name is Joe Moran and I'm here with Riv and Andrew Velez, and this is now episode 102. In this episode, we are going to recap the 2021 NBA Draft. We will pick winners, losers, and grade each pick made in the lottery and give our best undrafted players. We will also talk about the Pistons, Rockets, Cavs, Raptors, OKC, Orlando, and more. This is now episode 102, and right now we are recording this on Tuesday. Free agency of the NBA has already started. There already been some major moves, but because we haven't done a pre-draft show or a post-draft show yet, we are going to make this episode that draft show, and we will do a free agency show on Thursday. So we're going to have all the top moves covered. Don't worry about it. I know Riv is excited because Chicago had a pretty good free agency, right? Lonzo Ball, DeMar DeRozan.
It's the best you've had in years.
Alex Caruso.
Years. I'm glad we got
That's
our
the
guy.
best signing.
I'm glad. No. Who?
Caruso.
No, it's Lonzo.
Oh.
I'm glad we got Lonzo. We got our guy.
Wait, what about DeMar?
DeMar's good, but we needed a PG. You know what I'm saying? Like I've been craving for a legit point guard for like years.
Okay.
Your point guards have been terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. We were starting St. Aransky for a little bit.
Kobe White?
He's not a point guard. It's gotta get that out your mind.
Sorry, man.
He's like a Lou Will, bro.
A bad one.
Off the bench, no bucket.
I feel like every bench player is compared to Lou Will now.
Every single one.
That
That's
can
the greatest
score.
six-man
That's
ever.
a volume scorer.
Yep.
I mean, I can't call him Jamal.
Emmanuel Quickly is compared to Lou Will.
They kind of do.
Kobe
like,
White is compared to Lou Will.
just straight guards who really
Any
are
spark
point guards.
plugs off the bench are
Is Jordan
automatically
Clarkson
compared to
for
Lou
Lou
Will.
Will?
I feel like no, any point guard that's not really a point guard, they're really focusing on scoring of the bench.
And that's a bench scorer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is compared to Lou
Because
Will.
I'm not going to call him Jamal. Hell
No. Jamal had too much of a bag.
Won't call him Manu.
No.
Straight Lou Will.
So if you're listening to this right now, if you guys would like to rate and review our podcast on Apple Podcasts so we can get up there in the algorithm, I actually looked at the charts, and we were ranked in Japan.
Ooh.
Wow. We're that far?
I think, yeah.
It's on the other side of the
That's
world.
tough.
I want to be
man.
ranked in the United States, though.
Where
Not
are we
ranked
ranked
in the
in
United
Japan?
States.
Not ranked in the United States.
Where are we ranked? 100?
I don't even know. I didn't even see the number, but we were ranked in Japan for a short while, and I think in this other country as well.
What is it like?
It's like an
Slovenia?
African country. It was a country in Africa. I forgot
Zambia.
what it was. I think it was Ghana, but I could be wrong. I don't think it was Ghana.
It's a lot of countries. Africa.
No, that's super lit.
Tough.
That is
Rated
super
in
lit.
Japan.
So yeah, if you guys review our podcast, we go up in the algorithm. Hopefully, we could get that U.S. ranking.
For real.
Also, we just had a new Patreon donation, $5 donation, which is super awesome. If you guys don't know about it, we have 3 tiers. We have the first tier, which is $3, and you can suggest topics or ask questions. The second tier is $5. You can suggest topics, and you get discounts off merch we're going to drop. And our third tier is $15, and you get to have a guest spot on the show. It's
Really?
give your take, yeah.
That's pretty sick.
Somebody's done that before.
Who was that?
Jael Conrado.
Okay.
Yeah.
Did he have a good appearance?
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, it was solid.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I just gave out his government name. He's going to be so mad.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah, because on the live stream, I gave out his government name, and he messaged me on Patreon like, bro, you just said my whole government.
Every time we do the intro, you say Andrew Velez, so.
That's true.
At
Your
this
government
point,
is
yeah.
getting
Thank God I've
exposed.
done nothing wrong.
Except
up
for
until this
Riv.
point.
Nobody knows his government name. They know ours, though.
Yeah.
But they don't know his.
I'm cool with it.
They might, if they remember, you used to say my government. I had to stop you from doing that.
What's wrong?
You just can't be saying people.
Stay so low key. That's how you want to
I could
be.
have feds, man. I could have
You know what? Fair enough, man.
ops.
I
Ops
feel
could
you.
watch my
Yeah,
show.
That's a fact.
Before the show, we were thinking about ideas, and we had this idea in particular that we want to do this kind of we want to do this episodic series called Off the Pod. And what it's going to be is it's going to be a vlog on YouTube where we go do some really dope shit, like go into a baseball game or a football game or maybe trying out some food. You mentioned the idea of mukbang.
I'll give Riv the credit. It was definitely
It was Riv. We're thinking about doing something like that and calling it Off the Pod and doing something episodic in that way where we just do vlogs and stuff. I think that would be really fun
Definitely.
to build some Off the Pod chemistry as well as create some content for you guys.
We definitely have to go see like a Nets game or something.
I could pass on that.
Nets Lakers?
If I never. Ooh, okay.
Nets
Okay.
Lakers might be,
Yeah, like
Expensive.
$300.
that's going to be expensive. Knicks would probably be more though.
Knicks is way more.
MSG is so expensive.
Only game I ever saw LeBron play, he passed Kobe. So I don't know if I could go see him play again.
You serious right now?
Yeah. He passed Kobe, and then Kobe passed away the next day.
And the Warriors.
Have fun.
Seeing Steph is crazy.
Yeah. Have you seen Steph? Or are you just speaking in general?
Are you dumb? Who wouldn't want to see Steph?
In person.
Me?
You're lying.
In person, I haven't seen Steph.
No, really?
It's probably amazing.
Probably.
Come on, bro.
Except when he goes like 2 for 15 because
you have Westbrook one of those nights. You should really relax on stuff like that.
But now we're going to get into the show. This is the NBA draft show. On Thursday, we will record another show, and it's going to be the free agency show. So let's get into it. NBA draft winners. Each of us are going to give 3 teams that we feel won the NBA draft. And Riv, I want you to start with your first team.
I think we're all going to have this team. It's going to be obvious. The Rockets, clear as day. They were winning the draft, picking up Jalen Green, Josh Christopher, Sengun. I think getting those guys was definitely key for their development. Christian Wood is still there, too, so that's a good thing. Jason Tate is there. Kevin Porter Jr. is there. But I think they filled the needs that they needed. They needed some excitement into Houston. They needed some fun into Houston. They needed some scorers out there. So I think Rockets is one of my teams. Another team is Charlotte. And for James Bucknight, I'm sorry, was that one of your picks?
It's okay. Go ahead.
For James Bucknight falling so low, I think that's what keeps them in the top 3 for me because I wasn't expecting that. And Terry Rozier being that he's 27 years old and he's getting paid a lot, I think James Bucknight having a more NBA size, being more fit for the game today, I think he will fit seamlessly next to LaMelo Ball. And then getting a rim runner and a guy who is going to be in there catching oops from LaMelo with Kai Jones, I think that was great. He has high defensive upside. He's a guy who, he knows his role. He understands his role. He has a lot of upside. So I think Charlotte is definitely my number 2. And then my third team is the Warriors. I think for the what?
Those are your 3?
Can't make it up. This guy's unbelievable. God, I'll figure it out.
For the Warriors, being that Steph Curry is in win now mode, but I think picking guys who help them now and help for their future, I think is why I put them at the top because I think Kuminga, he has a top 5 ceiling in this draft, and Moody can help today as of right now, but he can also be an all-star down the road based off Golden State's development. So I think that was great that they was able to get those 2 guys and Kuminga to fall at 7. So those would be my top 3 teams.
You weren't so high on Sengun.
Yeah, but I think they need a guy like that, a post player like that, somebody like that. And I think Christian Wood can play on the perimeter for a big, so having somebody like that is good.
I just wanted it to be known.
Of course you do.
Because you don't like Sengun.
Don't say I don't like. I'm not high. That doesn't mean I don't like. Don't do that.
It's the same thing.
When
we talk about draft prospects, it's pretty much the same thing.
I don't like Westbrook, but that doesn't mean
he's bad.
Yeah, I don't know.
I've heard you say he's bad.
But you're not high on him on LA.
That doesn't mean I don't think he's a good player.
But you don't like him.
Yeah, I don't like him as a player. I don't like his play style.
All right, whatever.
Don't try to make me paint this narrative that I'm a bad guy and not like that.
Sengun, not liking Sengun, to me, you're a bad guy. Sengun is a good player.
Yeah, he's solid. So I'm not reiterating basically everything you said.
Pick a new team.
I have another team. The Magic. I think the Magic definitely were winners in this draft. You get a guy in Jalen Suggs at 5, especially when prior to this draft, everyone had him as a lock top 4. Raptors surprised everyone, go Scotty Barnes at 4, which we'll probably talk about later for sure. But you get Jalen Suggs, who has potential to be an all-star in this league, a guy that you could definitely build the team around. And then you go and you get Franz Wagner with your 8th pick. I like this specifically because they did what I expected them to do. Go best available and then best fit with that 8th pick. Jalen Suggs was definitely best available at 5 in my opinion. And then 8, Franz Wagner. I think that definitely fits what they were going for. I'm not a huge fan of Franz Wagner right now, but for what the Magic need, they need size. They need a body, really. Isaac, you really can't rely on right now, injury-wise. I understand that. When he's on the court, he's definitely an impact-type player, but you got a guy in Franz Wagner where, God forbid, Jonathan Isaac goes down again, you can rely on Franz Wagner to get more minutes. And this is a team that's going to be big into development, and Jalen Suggs is going to be one of those guys that you can rely on right away, and then Franz Wagner is one of those guys that you're going to need to develop. But I love this. I think that they're winners because you get a guy in Jalen Suggs that immediately could impact this team, and he's just a good potential centerpiece for this franchise that needs one.
I agree with that. I saw you making a face. Did you not like that pick, Orlando's draft?
Oh no, I was trying to be funny and make him laugh. So I was
See, but when you're strong and confident in what you're saying, nothing can phase you.
I think Orlando. I know on draft day they got a lot of knock for their draft because they have a lot of guards now. They have like 1 million guards now.
Oh no, actually I did have a problem with something you said. You said best available at 8. I don't think
best available at 5.
Oh, okay.
Fit at 8.
Okay, cool. Just wanted to make that. Sorry.
Fair enough.
There's a case for Franz Wagner being the best available at 8.
Debatable. I don't think he would have been the best available.
Who was 9? Davion Mitchell?
Nah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Between France and Davion, who was best available?
Well, Zaire
Williams.
Williams.
That's true, but when you have so many guards,
That's why I wasn't upset at the pick. Zaire Williams would have been interesting too because he has size. No, agreed. For sure, he's got that big body type build to him, but at the same time,
I expected Zaire to go to like in the 20s.
Really?
I didn't see 10.
No, I didn't see that either.
Teams.
I didn't see it either. I'm just speaking more so body types in similar positions.
I love the Magic's draft. I think they had a pretty good, solid draft. Some guys who fit what they want to do culturally. You mentioned it, the Houston Rockets getting Jalen Green at 2. I think he's a culture changer. He's a bona fide bucket. He even said it himself. He said, put me anywhere in the world and I'm going to go get a bucket. And that's the type of guy he is. Then Josh Christopher, who's his best friend. You get somebody who's comfortable with Jalen Green. I'm not sure if Christopher is going to play much, but it was a good upside pick because he is a really athletic guy. He can jump out the gym. Then Şengün. This guy, I think, was a top 10 prospect in this NBA draft. I've said it before.
Where did he fall again?
16. Houston traded 2 first-round picks, future first-round picks, to move to 16 to get Şengün. And I love this pick because Şengün, to me, reminds me a lot of Domantas Sabonis. He's a very good passer for his size. He's a very good rim runner. He can take you off the dribble and drive to the basket. He has a lot in his game, and I think Christian Wood right now is that guy at center, and I view Şengün more as a power forward anyway, but if Christian Wood down the line leaves Houston, I think they have their guy in Şengün. Realistically, in this draft, they picked up their centerpieces moving forward. KPJ and Jalen Green are the starting 1 and 2 for the future. Şengün and Usman Garuba can be the starting 5 and 4 going forward in the future. They picked up their centerpieces in Usman Garuba. Yesterday, I saw him versus the USA. He played phenomenal defense. He played elite-level defense. He's a polished player because of that overseas background. And offensively, he doesn't do much. You're not going to get out of him. You're not going to get a lot out of him. I've said this before. Usman Garuba has little to no star potential, but he's just going to be a solid role player, an elite defender, or a guy who's going to do everything you need him to do. A PJ Tucker max.
You don't think he has star potential?
I don't think Usman Garuba has star potential. That's just me. I don't think he has star potential.
How old is he? 20?
I know his age is. I know he's young.
No, I'm just asking.
Yes, he's not. He's actually 19. He's very young.
Well, because the defense is already there. So, you work more in his offense.
From his play style, how I see him play, I don't see that star.
Well, offensively, I don't see it.
I see a supercharged Kenneth Faried and Usman Garuba. Kenneth Faried wasn't a great defender, but Usman Garuba has the offense of Kenneth Faried, but defensively is on a different level. He is really similar to Draymond defensively, and yesterday, Spain versus USA, when you saw them both on the court, boxing one another out, the way they move on defense, it's very similar. Usman Garuba can guard 1 through 5. His switchability is crazy. My next team was the Hornets. James Bucknight getting a guy to pair with LaMelo going forward in the future. Kai Jones,
going now.
A perfect lob threat. And Kai Jones, he has a potential to be a star. Then JT Thor getting a swing pick late in the second round, I think was also a very good pick. And my third team, the Brooklyn Nets. They had an A++ draft, getting Cam Thomas at 27, a bona fide bucket. His favorite player is James Harden, so I already relate to him on some sort of level because he's an awesome dude.
What the
If his favorite player is James Harden, he's already an awesome dude. I don't need to know much about him. He's been a bona fide bucket at Oak Hill. He was a bona fide bucket at LSU. In the NBA, he's going to be a bucket. Mm-hmm. He is like that. And Brooklyn in this draft basically secured their future while also adding guys who can contribute now. They got Kessler Edwards in this draft as well at pick 44, a great value pick. Day'Ron Sharpe. They also got Marcus Zegarowski. They had a really solid draft, and I think the Brooklyn Nets filled every need, and they checked every box, and that's why I think they are winners in this draft.
Let me ask you a question.
Even more than Golden State, personally.
No.
I can't agree with that either.
Yeah. Let me ask you a question. How much do you think Cam Thomas is going to play with Patty Mills and Bruce Brown coming back?
Bruce Brown plays a small ball 5 role.
But do you think he'll start? You think he'll start again? And
Bruce
they picked
Brown?
up James Johnson, too.
It depends. It really depends.
I know Patty's coming off the bench.
It depends. James Johnson, I don't think is going to get much minutes. I think he's going to get minutes when the matchup.
I think he takes the Jeff Green role.
When the matchup calls for it, I think that's when James Johnson gets those minutes. When the matchup calls for it, when you have to put him on a Giannis and have to put him on these bigger body players, I think Cam Thomas can have a similar role to what Dinwiddie or Karis LeVert had early in Brooklyn. I really do. I think he's ready to come off the bench and score 10-plus points per game right off the bat. And Brooklyn, having Harden, having Kyrie and KD, knowing that these guys in the past have been injury-prone, there's always a chance for somebody to step up in that rotation. I don't think Day'Ron Sharpe plays much. I don't think Kessler Edwards played much. I think that Marcus Zagorowski might get cut. But Cam Thomas, to me, I think is ready to contribute day one. When you look at their lineup, Kyrie, Harden, KD, who starts?
You don't think Blake would start?
I think Blake is going to come off the bench. I think it's better for their depth.
Bruce Brown's actually a free agent.
You know, he got signed.
No, he got signed.
They re-signed him.
Bruce Brown starts with the Nets because last year when he started, they were really great. And at center, probably Nick Claxton.
Okay.
You know, maybe not. Maybe they go small.
No, Joe Harris is going to start.
I totally forgot about Joe Harris.
I was like, wait, Joe's going to start. So probably Brown.
Then off the bench, it's Mills, it's Blake Griffin, it's Claxton or DJ. And then really, where else is that depth? Where is that shooting guard depth? I think Cam Thomas can fill that role. Okay. And that's why I think Cam Thomas has a chance to make an immediate impact with the Nets. And he was one of my favorite picks of the draft. I think he landed in the perfect situation to learn from Kyrie, Harden, and KD is going to be great for his career early on.
Okay, that's because I was thinking of their roster and I seen them today saying they signed Patty Mills and they brought back Bruce Brown. So that's why I was curious how much Cam Thomas is going to see depending on how they start their lineup. You know, maybe Claxton might get a start this year. Maybe they start Blake. Maybe they go Bruce. Like they can go multiple directions. But it's like you said, James Johnson is probably going to see runs because they see Giannis 3-4 times a year. They see Embiid 3-4 times. He's probably going to have a big lineup out there. So that's why I was actually curious.
And not to fight you too much on this, you're saying that you think that they're bigger winners than the Warriors. I'm going to disagree with that given the fact that the Warriors just had really good talent fall into their lap at their position, and they really didn't have to do anything to acquire them. Kuminga falls to them at 7. Kuminga was top 5 projected. Obviously, Barnes did mess up the draft, and Giddey as well, but they get Kuminga there at 7 regardless. And then at 14, Moses Moody. There's a few teams prior that took before Golden State that could have used a guy like Moses Moody. Moses Moody provides both aspects of the game, defense and offense, a good shot maker, a good three-point shooter, which exactly fits Golden State's needs. So that's why I'm a little hesitant to agree with that. So
Kuminga won't play much in his rookie year. Moody will probably play more. With the addition of Otto Porter, Clay coming back.
That's a very dangerous
Jordan Poole.
I don't think Otto Porter's that big of a signing as people are making it out to be.
No, he's going to get major minutes for the Warriors.
I don't know about that. I mean, ever since he left Washington, he really hasn't been anything spectacular in my opinion.
He's been hurt. When he started in Chicago, they were a 500 team.
Say it. Say it louder for the people.
Now, Otto Porter's going to have a significant role.
All he has to do
Warriors.
is shoot the 3 and play defense.
I just think Kuminga, you wouldn't spend the number 7 overall pick on him if you weren't going to at least try and develop him.
No, for sure he's going to play. He probably going to get like 10, 15, maybe 20 minutes a game, you know.
I'll say 10,
so do you think he's more of a sophomore year player than a –
because, look, Steph, Clay, Wig, Dre, Looney is probably going to be the starters.
Do you think Wiggins makes it to opening day?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Because I think what the Warriors want to do is see how good Clay still is on defense.
Okay.
And if he
that'll dictate,
that'll dictate whether Wiggins, because
Wiggins
is really good on defense.
No,
and
for
then
sure.
The bench, Wiseman, Moody, Jordan Poole.
You don't think Wiseman starts?
Coming off an injury, no.
Okay.
I think Looney with that he knows how they play. He has that veteran. I think he'll start. But it really depends. Like I think Kuminga will get some shine. If he plays better, obviously he'll play more. But it really just depends. Like you said, I think Moody will probably get more because he's more ready.
Okay.
And he 3-and-D. He's that type of player.
For sure.
Golden State is a dynasty one of the dynasties of this era, no doubt.
Oh, before we move on to the next time, I wanted to ask you guys, what was the team? What was the off the radar team that you thought won the draft?
I didn't really have one. I was the Nets for me.
For real.
The Nets,
Like the off the radar team. I don't know what you really mean by that.
like a team people haven't been talking about that had a really good draft.
I think
I
the
had
Nets.
the Pelicans.
The Pelicans did have a good draft too.
They needed defense and shooting, and they got a
Trey
little
Murphy,
bit of both.
yeah, definitely.
And that's why I had the Pelicans.
Golden State has been a dynasty, but they have not been known for developing talent. It's really been Steph. It's really been the Steph show. That's why I kind of worry with Kuminga, because
That's an interesting take.
with Jonathan
Well, they haven't
Kuminga,
developed talent in like 8 years.
I know it's been a while, but Dre, Clay, Looney.
Poole.
they're more
Looney.
self
Wasn't
made.
Looney, but the
Wait, what do you mean? Like,
wasn't he on the
yeah,
Warriors?
but he's not really.
He's not a great player.
Yeah,
No,
he's
but he knows his role and he does
Yeah,
it
but-
very well.
Kuminga landed in a pretty awkward spot because this is a team that wants to win now. And Moses Moody offers that. He can contribute right away. Kuminga, I don't think can, because he's not a good defender. That's what's going to plague him early on in his career, and he's inefficient. He's not a good decision maker. If Golden State can't develop Kuminga, this is going to be a wasted pick because people are talking about him having a similar role to what Jalen Brown had his rookie year. But I don't think he's as good defensively as Jalen Brown coming out, not even close.
No way.
And if Kuminga can't space the floor, if he can't play defense, he's not going to crack the rotation. Golden State, a team that wants to win now, is not going to play him over Juan Toscano Anderson, a guy who knows his role. I'm
I
just
agree.
telling you,
Yeah.
because off the bench, you have Jordan Poole. You already said you think Wiseman comes off the bench. That's 2 spots. We know rotations are usually 8 to 10-man rotations. That's Poole, that's Wiseman, Moody, Otto Porter. That's 4 right there. Kuminga's going to have to crack that 5th spot. I'm not sure if he can do that over Juan Toscano Anderson and even another guy like Damian Lee, who knows what he has to do on the team. So that's why I think it's going to be tough for Kuminga to crack a role in this rotation. And that's why I think Golden State was kind of an awkward spot for him to land in, because it's not an OKC where he can play through his mistakes, where he can just develop. It's a when am I going to get a chance to play type of thing.
I agree, but disagree to an extent, because I think with this is not an awkward spot. I think this is a really good spot because he doesn't have to be ready right away. I think with the pick of Moses Moody, and with the fact that the Warriors have guys that can play over him, and getting Otto Porter was huge because now Kuminga doesn't have to play right away. His development can be slow, and he can be that guy.
They also got Bjelica.
Oh, right.
That was a good
yeah.
pickup.
So even with his addition, where's Kuminga going to fit in that rotation?
Yeah,
with these
I don't think
forwards?
he needs to come in right away and be. I think they picked this guy as a guy to be their anchor for the future. But I don't think, even because with Wiseman, they kind of they played him, but he kind of came on slow. Sometimes they didn't play him one night. He got 15 minutes, another 30. So it's kind of going to be, I think with Kuminga, they're kind of going to take their time with the process with him. And I think that's okay for his development. Because like you said, he's not ready right now. He's not Jalen Brown coming out of college.
I personally feel like the best thing for a player's development is for them to play. And if he's not playing, and especially with all that pressure playing with Steph and in Golden State with those expectations, it's going to be really tough on him. Moses Moody can handle it because he's pro ready right now. I mean, he's a polished player right now. He can step in, fill his role. He's a Golden State guy. I think if Golden State wanted to win now, they probably should have went with Franz Wagner at that 7th pick and then picked up Moody and had a forward and a guard. But obviously Kuminga's upside is too much to pass up on. But I don't trust Golden State developing him. I don't.
I don't know, because they turned Wiggins into a different type of player. Jordan Poole, he looked really good in his next year. I don't need to speak on Steph, Clay, and
Jordan
Dre.
Poole was a bucket, though, at Michigan. He was a bucket.
I think he averaged like 12 points.
He had game, though. You saw those flashes. He had game.
I don't know about this. I don't know about this, the flash, but I'm saying like year 2, you see the improvement. JTA, they trusted in him. He played well. So I won't say I won't fully trust their development, but it's obviously a 50-50 for me right now because we've seen the good. We've seen the Wiggins. Wiggins is a completely different player now. playing in Golden State. He wasn't known as a great defender.
He was never bad though.
No, I'm not saying he was bad, but he wasn't known as what he is now. Now he can be considered a third or fourth star on the championship team, whereas in Minnesota, people were like, he's a bust. He doesn't play defense. He's just putting up empty stats. So it's a 50-50 thing for me right now. But I think the 7th pick with Kuminga being there in their future, Steph and Clay Dre being as old as they are and Clay coming off 2 injuries, I think you had to go with somebody with some type of star potential.
Teams that I think lost a draft this is really simple for me. The first team has to be the San Antonio Spurs. The selection of Josh Primo was one of the worst picks that I've seen in years. And this is no disrespect to Josh Primo. You're welcome to come on the show anytime you want. He's probably not even going to listen to this.
Yeah, no way.
But this pick was so bad because if you watch Josh Primo at Alabama, he was nothing more than a spot-up shooter. That's all he was at Alabama. He didn't show great ability to be a shot creator. He didn't show great ability as an elite two-way player. He didn't show any of that. He was just a floor spacer. Mind you, he was a very good one, but that's all he was. At Alabama, he was the 5th best player on the team. It was Herb Jones, it was John Petty, it was Shackelford, it was Javon, and then it was Josh Primo. For a player to be
Shackelford or Shakefield?
Shackelford.
That's his name? That's how you pronounce it?
Yeah, Shackelford.
Oh, okay.
For the Spurs to select Josh Primo with the 12th overall pick over Herb Jones, over John Petty, who were better than him at Alabama, is crazy to me. This was by far the worst pick in the draft, and I hate this. I hate this pick for him because now he has these lottery expectations when he should have been a late round pick. He should have never went this high. He was going to be there later, and the Spurs, I think, reached on this pick, and I feel comfortable saying that he's not going to pan out.
Not going to push back too much on that, truthfully. I mean, I'm not too down on him. I think he's a good shot. Like, he has a good shot on him. He's athletic. He plays relatively good defense. The selection at 12 is what makes it egregious. He's not a top 12 pick. That's why the pick is so horrible. And agreed, I have them as a loser as well. I probably would have gone Moses Moody. I probably would have gone a lot of other guards over him right here, truthfully. But at the same time, his athleticism, he's definitely an athletic dude.
Buck Knight was there.
No, he was not. Buck Knight went the pick before.
He went 11.
Oh, wow.
Which, if Buck Knight was there, this is the worst.
I thought Spurs went before. Wow.
Yeah, who cares? It's all right. Crazy. But either way, I mean, the Spurs have a lot of holes right now. You could have gone Sengun. You could have gone Kai Jones. I feel like either of those names would have been better than Primo at that 12 spot. And if you really weren't confident in that, you could have moved down. So I don't know what they were thinking, truthfully, but I'm not too down on Primo. I think he could make it. He could shoot the ball relatively well. He's an athletic defender as well. So I'll cut him the benefit of the doubt until we see him play.
Well, I like Primo. I don't think he's worth the pick where he's at,
Right.
but I do like Primo as a prospect. I do like Primo's potential. I like him as a player. I just don't think I think he's more of a early second round type of guy, late first maybe. I think Sacramento, I think they lost in this draft. I think picking up Davion Mitchell was way too high. I think for a team that has De'Aaron Fox, who's proven to be the guy for them, they just paid him to. A team who has Tyrese Halliburton, who exceeded expectation. A team who with Bud Hill, who we know he's going to get traded probably, but he's still on the team at the moment. Having those three guys, there's not going to be much wiggle room for Davion Mitchell. We don't even know if Halliburton is going to start or come off the bench. So even then, it's kind of like, bro, what are you guys doing? There was talent at 3 where you could have went. Harrison Barnes, he's not a guy. You need some young talent there. Marvin Bagley hasn't worked out. You kind of need a wing out there to have some young talent. And I don't think Davion Mitchell was the answer for them at that pick. I feel like they could have gone deeper. I think another loser is Philly. I think not trading Ben Simmons that day is going to haunt them. I think them reaching for a lot of draft picks when they could have probably got a lottery pick this year, maybe 2, if they just didn't want to ask for too much from other teams, is going to bite them in the ass. Even trading Ben Simmons for a star on draft day, I don't think that was good. And then picking up, and then the drafts, the picks they had, Jaden Springer, why would you pick him? You already have Tyrese Maxey. You could have went another way. So I don't like the direction Philly went in that draft, and I don't like the fact that they didn't trade Ben Simmons on draft day in a position where they could have done it because they were asking for too much. But those are, to me, my 2 losers.
I think Davion Mitchell will crack a role in the Sacramento Kings rotation. I don't like the pick, and I have them as a loser as well because they have been drafting guards for years. Stop drafting guards. You already have Buddy Hield. You already have Fox. You already have Halliburton. If Buddy Hield gets traded, Tyree starts at the 2. And then Mitchell comes off the bench. But did you really use your 9th overall pick to get a 6th man? Is that really what they did? That is ridiculous. You're using a top 10 pick to draft a 6th man. That is ridiculous, especially when they could have went upside at the wing or maybe even traded back and drafted a Corey Kispert for extra spacing because Harrison Barnes is leaving soon. They could have went in a lot of different directions, or even Moses Moody, maybe use him as a 3. There's so many different directions that they could have went in. But the other team that were losers to me were the Memphis Grizzlies. The 10th overall pick, drafting Zaire Williams, who is a project type of player who was extremely inefficient in his freshman year at Stanford. And then with the 30th pick, drafting Santi Aldama. I don't even know who that is.
I don't either.
I tried searching him up, and his stats look pretty good. But then I did some extra research, and he was playing one of the worst leagues in Europe. So this guy is not playing against good talent, and he's putting up these numbers. And I even read somewhere where this guy is going to be stashed. He might not even come to the NBA in like 2-3 years. So for you to pick him at pick 30, a stash player, is a waste of a pick in my opinion because I don't think he's going to be that good. And Zaire Williams, they better hope he pans out. I heard rumors that they were hoping Josh Giddey was there, and that's why OKC took Giddey at 6 because they knew Memphis wanted him at 10. And Giddey would have been the perfect pick. I've been saying it on the podcast for the last week that I think Memphis was looking at Giddey.
So then they go with Zaire after though?
Yeah, because it was Giddey, and then they were also looking at somebody else. It was Giddey, it was Kuminga that got drafted 7th. It was Franz Wagner who got drafted. They were looking at Wagner. Their board was Giddey, Wagner, and Williams.
And they weren't looking at Bouknight at all.
I'm guessing not.
That makes no sense to me.
I read somewhere that their top 3 choices were Giddey, Wagner, and Williams.
Maybe he was top 5.
Maybe, but I just don't know. This guy Bouknight has the potential to be maybe the best scorer in this draft outside of Jalen Green. I think Jalen Green is the best scorer in this draft. Obviously, Cade too, but I think he's more of an all-around type player because he's in a different class of his own. Is that okay to say?
I think James could be the best scorer in this draft.
But you're saying Bouknight?
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not wrong for me to say that. Okay, listen, I agree. You're just looking at me crazy. That being said, you have that. He's right there. You didn't have to move up for him. He fell to your lap at 10. Instead, you take a player where you already have a guy his position who's already been successful for you in Dillon Brooks.
Oh.
Dillon Brooks plays very good on-ball defense.
Zaire's more of a 2, though. Just tall.
Which is fair because his frame is not meant to play
if you watch him at Stanford, he really plays more like a 2-guard type.
I'm just going based off what they have him listed as, which is listen, you're the college guy, which I'll give you all the credit for, but you draft a guy at his position, that you already have a guy in Dillon Brooks who's already proven that he could play offense relatively well. Whether it's consistent or not is a different story, but he definitely is lock up on defense. You pass on a guy in Bouknight. You pass on a guy in Moses Moody who also has shown he can play really good defense as well as shoot the ball to pair that with a guy like Ja Morant who's obviously going to run your offense. No doubt about it, I had the Grizzlies as one of my losers. Another loser I had was actually the Pacers. Now, I don't like the Pacers pick at 13. I feel as if you already are probably shifting towards Malcolm Brogdon being your point guard. You don't really have a 2-guard. You lose a guy in Doug McDermott, which is a firm shooter for you, but you're really not in win-now mode, in my opinion. So you bring in a guy in Chris Duarte who's 24 years old. What's his true upside in the NBA? You pass on Moses Moody. You pass on a guy like Kispert as well. Who knows if they were in talks of trading Miles Turner. You could have gone Sengun to fill that role as well. There's just other options that I would have gone at instead of taking a 24-year-old guy who we saw with the Rockets. What is his name? Something Tate. I'm blanking bad. Jason Tate, who was an older draft pick but ended up being a solid piece for the Rockets. So maybe Chris Duarte could be that. I just don't think that where the Pacers are right now, that this was a good pick for them, in my opinion.
Chris Duarte is better than Jason Tate. And they do have a shooting guard. They had Karis LeVert.
You're 100% right. You're 100% right.
like-
Word, I'm bugging.
I
I'm
do
tripping.
think the Pacers are in win now mode. Rick Carlisle's coming in. Every single position on the roster has talent. Brogdon, LeVert, TJ Warren, Sabonis, Miles Turner. And they have Miles Turner's successor, Isaiah Jackson. I think Isaiah Jackson plays very similar to Miles Turner. And if he bulks up, he can be just as good, if not better. I think Isaiah Jackson has a lot of upside. I don't dislike the pick. I think Chris Duarte was okay. If it was me, though, I would have probably taken somebody with a little bit more upside.
I'd have picked Moody at 13.
I think Moody would have been the better pick.
Sure.
But Chris Duarte, I don't hate that pick. Even though he is 24, I think he's better than Jay Shantae coming out.
For sure.
Chris Duarte is an immediate impact player. They want to trade Jeremy Lamb, so they need that backup shooting guard, and I think Chris Duarte can be that. And with LeVert's injury history, you might need him to start.
And Warren as well. Warren he basically missed all last season too with injury. So that's the only reason why I'm iffy on this pick. I just would have loved Moody here. Moody, again, he falls into your lap at 13. A guy who potentially could have been top 10. He falls into your lap at 13. You pass on him. Even a guy in Corey Kispert too, where you had Ty Warren miss the whole season. He could have filled that role for you too. I just am not in love with this pick. Just because of the age, truthfully. I don't know what his true ceiling is already at 24.
Yeah, I mean, like, with Indiana, I think they're in win now mode just because of the fact they have a lot of guys who were hurt last
Do
year.
you think they could actually win?
Oh, no, of course
That's
not. But
why-
they're still in, win now
Fair
mode
enough.
because they
Fair
feel
enough.
like they have the requisite pieces to make a
To-
push in the
okay.
playoffs. And with their guys being all in the contract, Brogdon, LeVert, Warren, Turner, Sabonis, I think they're all getting paid at least $15 million a piece, at least, I think. So I think, with them already being solidified, they have a solid starting five, and that bench just needs help, So I think Chris Duarte is a good bench player. Like I said, I would have went Moody too, or Kispert, but I think Duarte, he's still one of the best shooters in this
You would have went
draft.
Kispert over Duarte?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have.
I don't know. They're all like the same type of guy to me.
He can play defense.
You're saying Duarte can play
Can.
defense.
Yeah.
Kispert, he can. You're right, he can. I mean, that's a tough one. I don't know. Kispert's a better shooter than me.
For sure.
Nah, he is, yeah.
Like he's a knockdown
He
shooter.
shot 44% from
No, he's
That's
a really
OD.
shooter from all. It depends. I probably would have went Moody regardless, but
Me
I
too.
think Duarte's still a good pick because he's a 3-and-D type of guy. And like you said, Doug McDermott just left. Jeremy Lamb they want to trade, so they need somebody to come off the bench.
Kispert's a body too. 230 almost.
He's strong.
This guy Duarte was 190.
Wait,
Yeah,
what?
yeah, exactly. Duarte's 190.
He's Dominican.
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying. Nah, I just wanted to mention
Because
that.
the way you said it was just like,
Yeah, that's
That's
why it's
tough,
not Duarte and it's Duarte because he has culture.
wow, he's 190.
I want
190 is
I want to
OD.
hear your guys' grades for these lottery picks.
Let's do it.
Do it.
1 through 4 lotteries 1 through 14, as we all know. On the live stream, you guys had some confusion over it. You guys thought it was probably 15, 16. But no, lottery is 1 through 14. We're gonna give our grades on each pick made in the NBA draft lottery. So starting with the number 1 pick, Detroit Pistons selected Cade Cunningham.
Consensus.
To me, this is an A+ pick.
A plus,
agreed.
plus.
Yeah.
Everybody has A+.
A+. Got
So
it.
on
I
to the
have
next
a
one.
105 grade.
The Rockets, number 2 overall pick, selecting Jalen
A
Green.
plus.
This also is an A+
Correct.
pick for me.
Yep.
So we can move on from that
Yeah,
one.
this
So
is not-
third overall pick,
A+.
Cleveland, Evan Mobley.
A+.
This is A+ for me as well.
Okay, it's getting tricky though.
Fourth pick,
This is the discussion.
Toronto Raptors select Scotty Barnes. What is your grade, Riv?
What?
Come on, you can't be surprised when you go first.
No, because we were all such in the like cool, just we're
Nah,
all gonna
but
say at the
this-
same time. And then he was like Riv. It was
Yeah,
like
fair enough. Fair enough.
I'm gonna give it a B. I wouldn't give it an A, but I'm gonna definitely give it a B because it's still a really good pick.
I'm gonna give it a B+ because of the upside that he brings to the defense and his potential that he could be that point forward for them. So you don't really miss out on Jalen Suggs too much. Only reason I don't give it a B+ is because, or excuse me, I don't give it higher than a B+ because I would have gone Jalen Suggs, especially with Kyle Lowry being gone. You bring in your immediate replacement right off rip, and he fits in. I wouldn't say like the glove perfectly because obviously this guy Kyle Lowry is an amazing defender, and I don't think Suggs will ever reach that level of defense that
Really?
Kyle Lowry was on. In my opinion, Kyle
think
Lowry is one of the best defensive guards
think-
in our league.
I think Suggs kind of played like Kyle Lowry, not from the shooting aspect, but that type of just steady point guard.
I was going to say, I feel like an all-around game, I like
Yeah.
Suggs for sure. I just mean on the defensive side, and that's obviously where the Raptors were leaning. They wanted a defensive-type team, and that's why I like the pick, and I give it a B+. I just would have gone Suggs.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Malachi Flynn, so.
Okay.
I'm giving this draft pick a B
Okay.
because I think this is an upside pick. They're betting on Scotty Barnes' upside. I think he's ready to contribute right now also. But I've said it pre-draft. My ceiling for him has never been a star or superstar player. I see him more as a 15, 8, and 8 type of guy. He's getting these Giannis comparisons, and I don't know where they're coming from. People are just looking at his physique and saying, oh, that's Giannis. But no, his play style is nothing like Giannis. His assertiveness on offense is nothing like Giannis. His aggressiveness is nothing like Giannis. He's a pass-first player. I like this pick because the defensive upside of this team is crazy. But offensively, they are going to struggle. And Jalen Suggs is somebody who I think would have been a better fit offensively, but Barnes is better for their defense. And that length of having OG, Siakam, Barnes, Precious now, and Van Vliet, that's going to be an insane defensive lineup.
I'm surprised, based off your reaction on draft day, that you're
You
giving
seem
it a
pretty
B.
geeked about it.
I like Barnes to Toronto, but I don't know if he's going to become a superstar player. Because when we did our draft scouting report, I didn't think Barnes was that type of ceiling type of guy.
Is Draymond a superstar in your opinion?
No.
What the hell?
I agree. My point being, if he reaches Draymond's level, are you happy with that? I would be.
Depends on the team.
Here's
Okay.
the thing. I think Scotty is going to – his stats will be better than Draymond. But Draymond is really a tough player to evaluate and compare other players to
For sure.
because his impact does not show up on the box score.
I think what people also forget is comparing Giannis and Draymond. Scotty is way more polished coming out than both of those
them.
guys were.
Mhm.
So he has a little bit of an edge in that department, and his work ethic is insane.
Okay.
So I think he can definitely be better than what he is. But, coming out, he's, 19, 20 years old. Draymond, it took him 4 years to be who he was.
Mhm.
Giannis, he had to work. He was young, but he obviously had to work.
So what's your ceiling for him?
Scotty, I think he'll be an all-star.
Okay.
I think he'll definitely be.
Do you think he ever averages 20 points?
He can.
Okay. Because of his athleticism?
His mindset isn't that, though.
He's a team first player.
Yeah, he's a team guy. I think he's like a Iggy,
I just look at the Raptors. Do you see a guy that is going to be their primary scorer night in, night out?
Pascal cannot be that.
I agree. I
It
don't
has
think
to be
so.
Van Vliet at this
I
point.
don't think Van Vliet can be that
or
either.
Gary Trent
I
has
don't-
to take a step forward.
I think for them to be successful, it needs to be somebody else.
Okay.
Maybe OG.
Maybe.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, he has to take a big step. Toronto's going to win games because of their defense next year.
I think they'll be a playoff team.
I agree.
I think they'll be a
agree.
playoff team.
Next pick, the Magic at 5, taking Jalen Suggs. My grade is a B+. I think it was a good pick. They took best player available, but taking Suggs at this spot hindered them from taking a guard at 8. And that's why I think they kind of messed up, because they could have taken Kuminga at 5, Buck Knight at 8, and I think that would have been a better draft than Suggs and Wagner. But Suggs was the best player available, so I can't knock them for it. But that's why I'm giving this a B+.
I think they get a B for me too, because I think with all the guards being there, Jalen Suggs is kind of like the one guard they really want. A team first guard. He has all the intangibles. He's a playmaker. He's a guy who's the initiator of the offense, and I think they need a guy like that. They need a winning type of player, and I don't think the guards they have right now are healthy enough or playmakers at the position. So I think Jalen Suggs, I got to give him a B because, like you said, best player available, and he's somebody that can be an all-star in this league.
I'll give Jalen Suggs an A-. Playing my foot right there? Jesus Christ. I'll give Jalen Suggs this selection an A-. I feel as if the only reason I'm not giving it higher is because, like you mentioned, they do have a lot of guards in that room. But you draft Jalen Suggs, who could be the cornerstone of this team potentially. That's why I give it an A-. This guy is definitely an all-around type player, a guy that you would love on your roster. And for him to fall to 5, that's a blessing for them, truthfully. I'm sure that they didn't think draft day that they were going to have this guy fall to them. So A- is firm with me.
6th overall pick, OKC Thunder selected Josh Giddey. I'm giving this pick
An A+.
an A.
Mm.
I love Josh Giddey. I think he's one of the more polished players in this draft. He's going to be one of the best passers in this draft. Overseas, played really well in the NBL. I think he's better than people give him credit for, and I can't wait for him to prove people wrong, especially this guy sitting to the right of me, River Brown Jr.
We just gave out your government.
That's not my government.
Okay,
It's
huge.
my son's government. This is a trick because OKC's draft was just so weird to me. But I think this pick alone, I'd probably give it a B. You know, I think getting another guy who can play make and kind of take the load off SGA, I think it's a really good thing. You know, unlike I think he was given one of the heaviest loads in the NBA, you know, trying to carry that team. And when, you know, he played, they were 3 games under 500. They were really competitive, and that team wasn't that much talent. So I think bringing in Josh Giddey helps SGA slide to that 2 spot where he can focus on scoring and also gives him another initiator of the offense. So I give it a B grade.
100% agree. I have a B as well. Only reason I'm not giving it higher is because his offensive game is lacking. He averaged around 10 points a game overseas. He shot under 30% from three-point land, so he's obviously going to have to work on his shot in that aspect. But like you mentioned, 100% it allows SGA to move to that 2 guard to focus more on scoring, where SGA already had a season where he averaged over 23 points a game. Probably going to up those numbers, and Giddey's only going to help him get to his spots more. So that I do like the selection, but given his limited offensive skill set as of right now, I'm not in love with the pick, so I'm going to stay at B.
7th overall pick, Golden State Warriors, Jonathan Kuminga. This pick is a C- for me. I think it's a C- because this was probably one of the worst places he could have gone to develop. I don't think he's going to play right away, and because of that, it may hinder his growth as a player. And I didn't like the spot for Kuminga. For Golden State, yeah, they're going to shoot for the stars and see if his potential is going to live up to what he could be someday, but I think this was a bad fit for Kuminga.
I'm going to give this grade this draft pick a B+. You know, I think getting a guy who's can help a team whose players are very old, you know, this can help their future. Also, in putting him in a position where he can learn from the best shooter of all time, one of the best defenders of all time, one of the best 3-and-D players that we've seen in our league, I think that would really help his development. And on top of that, he doesn't have to come in and is not the number 1 pick expectations or the number 2 pick or, you know, saving a franchise. You know, those expectations really damage a player, and I don't think Kuminga has that. So I think that's going to be good for him too. So I give it a B.
I'm going to lean B just because you said B+ or B?
I don't remember, but I said B.
Okay, all right. Well, don't want to backpack you, but I'm going to go B as well. I'm going B because the fact that the Warriors were able to land Kuminga and, again, not move in any position to get him was very firm to me. I look at his frame, a 6'8", 210 guy with a 6'11" wingspan. That's extremely solid, and his biggest critique right now is defense. He's a liability defensively. But when you have a guy in Draymond Green who's obviously going to bring the best out in you, I feel as if that can only benefit Kuminga. Like you mentioned, his offensive game is definitely the best part of his game, in my opinion, and most people's opinion. He's a strong dude. He's an athletic dude. He's going to be able to get his shot. He's going to learn from Steph Curry. He's going to learn from Klay Thompson. This is only going to benefit him in the long run. Again, like you keep saying that you don't think that this is a good spot for him, which, listen, is more than fair. There's a lot of depth to this lineup. I think he will get more minutes than Otto Porter. I'm not a huge fan of his. Bjelica, again, he's a new addition. He didn't really make it work with the Kings. Didn't really make it work with the Heat. Now he comes to the Warriors, where, you know, there's a little bit of depth there at that position as well. And I look at Kuminga. You drafted him with the 7th pick overall. You're gonna use him in some facet of the game. So I'm gonna stick with B because I think that he has too much upside to not be given a chance.
8th overall pick, Orlando Magic selected Franz Wagner. This is a C for me because he's a perfect role player, but I don't see him being anything much more than that.
I agree. I think this is a C+ grade. I think, you know, Orlando needs stars. I think they need star potential, they need star talent, and I think Franz is like just a really good player that's going to be in the league for a long time and contribute, but I don't think he has star potential, so I'll give him a C.
I'm going to go C-. I feel as if I'm not a huge fan of Mo Bamba. I'm not a fan of Wendell Carter, these bigs that they have on this team. I would have gone Sengun. People may have seen it as a reach, but when you need a position and you had Jalen Suggs fall into your lap at 5, you take need and you take upside at the same time. Franz Wagner really doesn't provide all too much.
I apologize.
Doesn't provide all too much more than what Sengun would have given you, and Sengun gives you that size, and at least you give another chance to a new big. Where I'm not a supporter of Bamba. I think that we've already seen what he is.
Dude, I hate Wendell.
Wendell is not that great. Maybe,
Garuba
man.
8?
Maybe. No, he's making fun of me. But listen, defensively, he's definitely better than what Franz Wagner is. Franz Wagner really is that type of hybrid where he can kind of score, be a mid-range, kind of has a jump shot, not the best defender there is. At least Garuba excels in defense. His offensive game definitely lacks, but Franz Wagner doesn't specifically excel in one thing over another. That's why I'm not in love with this pick.
Ninth overall pick.
Garuba.
The Kings selected Davion Mitchell. This grade is a D for me. I think it was one of the worst picks in the draft because they're drafting way too many guards. I don't like this for Davion Mitchell at all.
F. I think they didn't fill any holes. They didn't fill any needs. I think they just went out and did another bad thing in the draft. They didn't get any star potential, star nothing.
Really?
Yeah, this is just strictly an F. I feel bad. Like you said, I feel bad for Mitchell because I wanted him to go somewhere where he can contribute and actually be in a winning environment. But it's over. Sacramento's bad, man.
I give him a D+ because I think Davion Mitchell
What is a D+?
It's just not a D. It's not an F.
What the hell?
I give it a plus because
Isn't a D like 65 to 69?
You have a good point, but I've
So
seen
what's the
people
D+?
give D+.
Really?
Yeah, weirdly enough. Regardless of that fact. You want me to give him a C-? I'll give him a C-. Does that make you happy?
No, I'm just saying.
You know what, C-. Why not? I'm just kidding. In the D range, just because I like Davion Mitchell. I like Davion Mitchell, the player. That being said, this makes no sense for, like you guys mentioned with the Kings. They already have a bunch of guards. But Davion Mitchell reminds me of that Marcus Smart type player. He can definitely play defense. He could be the best defensive player in this draft, even better than Scotty Barnes. That being said, there's no real room for him to grow offensively, given De'Aaron Fox is going to be the primary ball handler. Tyrese Halliburton has shown that he could be that facilitator of the offense on top of still getting his shot off too. You have a guy in shooting guard, Buddy Hield, thank you, who obviously has been rumored in a bunch of trades recently, but he's probably going to stay on the team at the start of the season. So he's kind of getting lost in all those guys' minutes as well. So that's why I give it a D.
10th overall pick, the Grizzlies selected Zaire Williams out of Stanford. This is the C- for me. If he doesn't pan out potential-wise, because at Stanford he wasn't good at all, they made this pick based off potential. If he doesn't even live up to half of what he can be, this is going to be one of the worst picks in the draft.
My fault. I looked up Buddy Hield's real name. I had to know.
What is it?
Chavano Rainer Hield.
So where did Buddy come from?
Probably a nickname. He's Hawaiian.
Okay.
No,
I thought he was from the Bahamas.
Yeah, I don't know why I said Hawaiian, but he's from the Bahamas. Anyways, Zaire, I'm gonna give it a C grade. Because it's we can throw all the trust in Memphis development team, but I just feel like James Bucknight sitting right there was just so perfect for John Moran and the crew. So I got to give it a C grade because I watched Stanford a lot last year, and he just was so inconsistent, and he got pushed around a lot. His frame is very, very skinny. He's kind of built like Brandon Boston, but he doesn't have that type of separation at this level at the moment. So they're kind of banking on his potential, but I think they could have went in different routes with this pick, so I'm going to give him a C.
I'm going to give this pick a D. I feel as if, how I've mentioned over and over again, I would have taken Bucknight with this pick, and even at the very worst, I would have taken a guy in Moses Moody, someone to fill that two-guard position, someone that can get a bucket on their own without, a spot-up shooter, anything. Bucknight could do more than that. He's a versatile shooter. He can drive to the basket. He is just a perfect package offensively when it comes to scoring. And then guy Moses Moody, same thing. He's a very good shooter, can score the basketball, but is also efficient on defense as well. Zaire Williams, I'm not in love with him. His frame is not there. He's got good height to him, but when you're 6'8" and 180, that's not a good recipe in the NBA. And again, they have a guy at his position already that has shown he can be successful. So I'm going to stick with the D.
Pick 11, the Charlotte Hornets selected James Bucknight.
Yeah, that was crazy.
This was an A+ for me.
Yeah, I there's nothing much to say about this pick. This was extremely an A+.
Next pick, the 12th pick, the Spurs selected Josh Primo.
Oh, shit.
This was an F. This was the worst pick of the draft.
Easily.
It's a shame because I do think Primo could
like
have been
him.
good. Me too.
F.
Me too. F.
13th pick, the Patriots selected Chris Duarte. I'm giving this a B. This was a solid pick.
I give it, yeah. I'm going to give it a B because I think with all the guys they're going to lose in free agency, I think he comes in, he can seamlessly fit into his role. So
I'm going to go C just because I don't think he's going to be a starter right away, obviously. So if that's the case, then you could have brought in a guy in Moses Moody to be that sixth man. You could have brought in a guy in Corey Kispert to be that sixth man. I like those guys better. I think Corey Kispert is a bigger body Chris Duarte who could score the ball more efficiently. You lose a guy in Doug McDermott, Kispert immediately fills that void in a guy who could shoot the basketball very well. Duarte, again, like I mentioned, 24 years old. What's his true ceiling at this age already? So I'm going to stick with a C.
You know who Chris Duarte is kind of like? Doug Christie.
That's interesting. You don't know who that is.
Not a clue.
The last pick in the lottery
Not
was...
gonna explain who that is to me either. Right.
Golden State
Basically
Warriors.
what Chris Duarte is.
Okay.
The last pick of the lottery was the Golden State Warriors selecting Moses Moody. I actually thought this was an A+ pick by them.
I agree. I think A+ Warrior guy.
I'm high on Moody. Agreed. A+.
So that's our lottery grades. Now on to the next topic. We are going to name the best undrafted players. We're going to name 2 or 3. And I'll start off first, and I'll name mine too. Aaron Henry was obviously one of them. He was a guy who I thought was going to get drafted for sure. Ended up not getting drafted. I was very disappointed in that. But at Michigan State, averaged 15 points, 6 rebounds, and 4 assists per game. Was a high-level defender. He got signed by the 76ers, and he's going to be playing for their Summer League team. And I expect Henry to make the team. I think he will make it. He has a chip on his shoulder, and I can't wait to see what he does. And the next player is Joel Ayayi. We share the same name, so I already know he's destined for greatness. And I think that Joel Ayayi, I was really surprised he wasn't drafted. At Gonzaga, he was the perfect 3-and-D guy. Next to Suggs, next to Drew Timme, Kispert. He was the perfect glue guy. He was the glue guy of their team. He averaged 12 points. He had 7 rebounds per game, and he shot 58% from the field and 39% from 3. He's the perfect 3-and-D player, floor spacer. He's signed with the Lakers, and maybe he can crack a rotation spot on that team.
Your boy Javonte Smart didn't get drafted either.
He got signed by Miami.
Yeah.
That's a good spot for him.
That's what I was about to say. It's a really good spot.
He can fill that Kendrick Nunn role.
If you got to make the roster first. You know. But my guy, you kind of took one of my guys, so I'm going to just say one. You freaking took Joel, man.
Which one did he take of yours?
Joel.
No.
Ajayi.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Okay.
I watched Gonzaga a lot, so he's really good. Trendon Watford, we was talking about it earlier. I think Trendon Watford not getting drafted was really weird to me. You know, he's a guy that kind of fits this NBA mold. You know, a guy who can play the 3, he can play the 4, he can play the small ball 5. He can make passes out the post. He can hit. He's not a liability on the 3-point line. He can hit an open jump shot. He's a guy who can take it to the basket. He's pretty strong for his position. So I thought, you know, somebody was going to bank on him and take him late in the second round. I'm surprised he didn't get picked up. And it was interesting. He's going to Portland on a 2-way. So hopefully, you know, Portland can.
Trendon Watford?
Yeah.
That's not a bad place for him.
Yeah, so hopefully. But that was my guy. You took my other guy, so I'm just going to say Trendon Watford.
That's fine because he took my guy in Aaron Henry. So my one guy was Mac McClung. He comes.
Of course.
Signs
I
to,
knew you were going to
signs
go
to the
that
Lakers. Look, we lose Caruso. We get another
He's not
athletic.
going to make the team.
He probably with all the signings we made today.
Yeah, he won't make the team.
You're probably right, but at the same time, let's say he doesn't make the Lakers roster. I feel like he could definitely be a good role player on another squad. He brings a great amount of athleticism to a squad. He's a volume shooter who definitely needs to work on not having to force shots up, but he's athletic enough where I believe in his offensive game where he can get to the basket. He's definitely that flashy type player that even if he's a 6-man or a deeper rotation player than that, he can give you a spark off the bench, and that's exactly what you need. Defense-wise, he's a good post defender. I think off-ball defense, he can definitely work on that a little bit. But McClung, especially with the Lakers losing Caruso, you bring in a guy in McClung. No, nothing because of the color of his skin. I just solely mean it. He is a true athletic basketball player that definitely could be beneficial for this Lakers squad deep into a rotation, of course.
Wait, what does the color of his skin have to do with anything?
He's white. People are going to say, oh, you only think that he's
No, it's because
Caruso
you're a Lakers fan.
but Caruso brought exactly what McClung brought to us. A guy off the bench that was a spark type of dude.
Gone.
Yeah, man, it's tragic. I could cry about it if we talk about it a little bit more, but we don't want that. That being said, McClung, he's a poor man's Caruso. He is. He definitely is.
I think he's a little better.
Whoa.
Coming out.
Obviously, no one knew about who Caruso was until he actually started getting burned.
Yeah, woof.
Yeah, for real. I was about to start. I was about to start.
Oh, Caruso's good. He's on my team now.
You got to be a supporter now. Get the headband. AC Fresh tat.
On what team?
The Bulls.
So you said McClung.
No, we was talking about coming out of college. Yeah.
Caruso's way better than McClung.
Yeah,
that's not what I was saying.
I don't know. Were you?
I know what you were saying.
Were you?
Still,
yeah, I was saying coming out of college.
I feel like Max McClung or Mac McClung is a guy that people will pick because of Baller's life. He's a very famous figure. For sure.
Yep.
Very, very bouncy though.
But I don't think
his athleticism is crazy.
But I don't think he has much game that translates to the NBA level. Personally, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
And why is that?
Didn't it take Caruso like a year and some change to get on a team?
Yeah, he was in summer league like D squad.
Because Mac McClung is an undersized point guard that doesn't do much else but score.
Correct.
And I'm not sure that he can score at a high level in the NBA or even a good enough level to crack a rotation spot. NBA is really difficult. I think Mac McClung is going to be a guy who's going to be in the G League for a while and try to find himself, and may never will. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what this guy's future holds, but I'm not high on Mac McClung at all. I think he's more of a hoop mixtape guy.
Okay.
He's not more of a in-game ball player.
Okay.
In my opinion.
I think he's too ball dominant, which is what I understand what you're saying. He's too much of a player that needs the ball in his hand to make things happen, and in doing so, it forces him to jack up shots that he doesn't necessarily have to take.
A lot of these hoop mixtape guys really don't pan out. Do you remember Jordan McCabe?
He's at West Virginia.
He gets no burn.
Yeah. That's because West Virginia plays full-court defense. He's not doing that.
There's a bunch of guys that have highlight tapes that obviously made it. John Wall.
Nazi Reed.
Zion.
Seventh Woods.
Oh, my God.
He was garbage.
He was garbage. I mean, yeah. Because Baller's Life, they don't show the bad. They just show your highlights.
Yeah, of course. That's obviously who's going to show you
highlights.
Their bad.
Some guys' highlights do be a little crazy. Like
Seventh Woods
Wiggins out of high school was crazy.
Remember Quay Parker?
I don't know him, no.
Oh, he's a dark-skinned dude. He was jumping out the gym. Like jumping, like he's doing 360.
What college did he go to?
He went to Rutgers, and then he just flat out after
Corey
that.
Sanders.
He was actually pretty good at Rutgers.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know how.
It was average. Average to below average.
I wouldn't say below average. He was all right.
After he left, Rutgers turned the program around.
That is true. That is very true.
Dwayne Bacon also was one of the highly touted prospects out of high school.
Dwayne was tough.
Shabazz Muhammad.
He went to FSU. He was tough.
Shabazz Muhammad.
Shabazz was all right. There's a lot of guys. Baller's Life had a lot of guys.
NBA's cutthroat. Not everyone makes it, obviously.
That's true.
Yeah. It's a tough business.
It's 11 men on every roster.
12. 15 if we're being realistic.
How many really play? Like 8?
9.
At most.
The Warriors play 10.
They need it.
Why do the Warriors need it?
Because they're not that good.
We're going to the finals.
How much you want to put on that?
I'm willing to pull up $10 on that.
Shake on it right now.
Now I'll put 50. You'll go to the finals.
All right, deal.
The WCF.
No. All right, deal. You know what, deal.
All right.
You already have a bet with me.
Yeah. This guy is crazy.
We'll talk about that Thursday. We'll talk about it Thursday.
You already have a bet with me.
I can't wait for yours. Oh my
I'll be honest. I can't wait.
Oh, I'm going to just rub it in his face.
I'm bringing popcorn.
Yo, he's...
No, you're not. You're not going to rub nothing in my face.
I know. Just pause. Like, yeah, pause.
Yeah, bro. You're ridiculous for what you was talking about in the group chat.
I don't know.
I was bugging?
No, I don't think so.
For thinking Atlanta could do that?
Yeah.
We're going to talk about it next episode, but you better come ready with notes that episode.
I think you need to come with notes that are going to...
I got mine, trust me.
Yeah.
Your notes aren't good enough. They aren't good enough.
I'm prepared.
You're never prepared.
I'm prepared.
Because you can talk and then,
just gets bad fired by my clean rebuttals. I'm like a battle rapper. I'm like Sue Surf. And
like
you're
the good Sue Surf or the bad Sue Surf?
The prime Sue Surf.
Oh.
And you're like...
I'm Eminem 8 Mile. Got no chance against me.
It's irrelevant. This is real battle rap.
Who's the guy he battle rapped in the final? Blanking on his name.
I'm Al BL.
Your real name is Clarence? Are you Clarence?
You're definitely not Clarence.
You're DNA. You're good, but you'll never be an upper echelon guy. Your peak isn't... I'm Sue Surf. My peak is crazy. That's what it is.
His knowledge of battle rappers.
I don't know battle rappers.
Hey, he got it there. That's why I'm laughing.
Yeah, you're DNA, though. You're a good guy. You're good.
Are you Al BL?
Stop saying his name, bro.
All I don't want to disrespect him, but he sounds like Young M.A.
Wow. Young M.A. doesn't sound too bad.
No, but Albial sounds exactly
Kind of
like
look alike, for being honest.
high key.
Relax, you're gonna make this podcast a target.
No, high key. That's why I didn't want to say anything either.
You're gonna have goons pulling up through the
Nah,
back.
Albial's good. Albial's good. That's no disrespect.
We're gonna talk about specific teams in the NBA draft right now. One of the teams we're gonna talk about are the Detroit Pistons, and in the draft, we all know they drafted Cade Cunningham with the number 1 overall pick, but they also drafted Luka Garza. They also drafted Isaiah Livers, who's a good floor spacer for that team. And with the additions that Detroit made in the draft and in the offseason also acquiring Kelly Olynyk, do you think that they will be a play-in or playoff team in the Eastern Conference next season?
It's tough. Let me start by saying I like their team. I like the direction they went in the draft. But, Jeremy Grant, I think he's a really, really good player. Killian Hayes, he has a lot to prove in year 2. Sadiq Bey, a guy like that, he's going to continue what he's doing. Isaiah Stewart, he came onto the scene. He's good. Josh Jackson kind of revived his career out there in Detroit. But I think, with teams like Toronto, the Bucks, Miami, Charlotte, they making some moves.
Boston.
Chicago making moves. Boston still having JB and JT. I think it's going to be really, really tough to just automatically think Detroit's going to make a play, especially with a bunch of young guys. I think they'll be fighting. I think it's going to be tough games when you go to Detroit. I don't think it's going to be no slouch games. But I think to say they're going to make the play-in, it's hard. I think even last year, the 10 teams that made it, I think only Washington is the team that really decreased or declined. I think Indiana being healthy is going to help them. Charlotte, I think, improved. Not to mention Toronto wasn't in the playoffs. They're going to be back with home games. They're going to be healthy. Chicago just made their moves. They're going to be good. So that's 2 teams on top of that. So it's going to be tough. But in my personal opinion, I don't think Detroit is going to make the play-in or the playoffs, but I think they'll be right in the hunt fighting for a spot.
I don't think they're playoff contenders either. Not a knock against any of the moves they made. I think that they definitely make strides for the future. That being said, like Riv mentioned, there's just too much talent right now in the East and the East going forward that I can't put them as a playoff contender going into next season. I still think that they need to surround Cade with players that fit his play style. And you'll only figure that out after watching him play this year. Of course, I look for them to facilitate the entire offense around Cade. Cade's going to be the main focal point of this team. As good as Jeremy Grant has played, obviously he has to know that Cade's this generational type guy, and they're going to try and build this team with Cade, not around Jeremy Grant for obvious reasons. But Jeremy Grant's definitely going to fit into this system where they have good players surrounding Cade. That's just a piece, the first piece to the bigger puzzle. But no, I don't expect them to be a playoff contender this season. But definitely strides for the future that I'm definitely considering in my future process of which teams are going to be among the East.
Next year, Detroit will be a 30 to 35 win team because they made a bunch of good moves. I honestly love the Kelly Olynyk acquisition. I think that he's an upgrade over Mason Plumlee because he can space the floor. In Houston, he played like a totally different guy. He was averaging 19 points and 8 rebounds per game. And he shoots 37% from 3 for his career. So he's going to be a good floor spacer. Will he be that same Kelly Olynyk in Detroit? No. I think he's going to come back down to earth and average his same old 11 points per game. Maybe he can crack 15. Who knows? Because Detroit is devoid of talent right now or great scores. Jeremy Grant went from 13 to 24. Can Kelly Olynyk go from 11 to 15? I think it's likely that he can. But Cade Cunningham in his first year is going to average 20 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists per game. He will win the Rookie of the Year. I firmly believe that. And you mentioned it. The Eastern Conference is one of the toughest conferences. I think it might be tougher than the West now.
It's tougher than it's been in a while.
I can't agree with that, especially with what you're saying about potentially Memphis being a better team than Atlanta, and Atlanta was just the 5th seed. So I don't know if I can agree with that statement, but go ahead.
For Detroit to make the play-in, they have to be better than these teams. Chicago, which probably won't happen because they just got DeRozan.
Mm-hmm.
Washington, I think they can be better than Washington.
I agree.
Sure.
The Hornets, I think they can be neck and neck with him.
Really?
Yeah, I think talent-wise, they are very similar.
Charlotte is tough.
And
like Charlotte.
Dwayne Casey versus James Borrego.
Oh, Dwayne.
Dwayne Casey.
For sure.
Then they have to be better than the Raptors.
I
don't think that happens next year. And they have to be better than the Pacers. I don't think that happens next year either. I only see them being better than Washington and Charlotte. Because of that, I don't see them being a play-in team. And this is a testament to how good the Eastern Conference is. There are going to be teams that miss the playoffs next year in the East that are really damn good teams. And that has not happened in the East in how many years now? It's probably never. It hasn't happened since I was alive. Now it's potentially going to happen. I say the East is better than the West because in the West you have Sacramento. They're not going to be anything.
You're saying like the depth, the East is deeper.
Yeah, the East is by far deeper. You have Sacramento, Houston, even though they have talent, they aren't. I don't think Houston is as good as a team as Charlotte, as Indiana, maybe even Washington.
Okay.
Like,
I see where you're going.
So the East just has so much depth, and this is the first time where it's really a stacked conference. I think top to bottom, every team is really good outside of Orlando. Orlando is the only team that is like, okay, that's going to be the worst team in the league, in the East at least. That's the only team that I really see is going to be the worst team, but every other team has a chance to be very, very competitive in the Eastern Conference.
I'm interested to hear your take on what you said.
Yeah, I don't know if I agree with that whole narrative of the East being better than the West, especially after you said that you think the Grizzlies would have beat the Hawks or the Hawks. You know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, the Memphis Grizzlies were an 8th seed, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's the 8th seed in the West compared to the 5th in the East.
You're missing a major point. Jaren Jackson missed the entire year.
Okay.
If he was healthy the entire year, Memphis is probably a 5-4 seed.
You said that even with Jaren Jackson being out.
Whoa.
No, I did not.
We just had this conversation like an hour ago.
No, I did not.
Whoa.
Jaren Jackson played in the playoffs.
You think there'd be a 5-6 seed?
They could be.
So who are they taking out? Because if you're gonna say that, what if the Warriors had Clay all year?
Dame's still on the Blazers. They're not going to be above the Trailblazers.
Yeah, they can.
The Mavericks
definitely can.
The Mavericks.
The Mavericks started out really slow to start the season,
and they turned up, and they ended up 5.
Yeah, and if Memphis had Jaren Jackson the entire year, they could have definitely finished up there.
That's a lot of teams like that, though.
I'm just saying, you have
but
Atlanta.
You can't take away the subtraction of Valanciunas also.
Atlanta versus Memphis fully healthy.
Atlanta was hurt a lot this year too, though.
Yeah, they didn't have DeAndre Hunter.
That's true.
Danilo missed some time. A lot of their guys missed some time.
That's true.
So.
They didn't have that continuity, but Atlanta.
And they had to go through the whole coaching thing.
We all know that the 5th seed in the West versus the 5th seed in the East, it's a much different. It's much different record wise.
That's true.
So then it only helps my point of the West.
Well, the
is
West.
better
No,
than
he's
the
saying
East.
the East is
because the
deeper.
depth in the East is
the West.
Is really
I think we
good
can. The West is top heavy.
If
better.
we go based off this last season, right? 7, 8, 9. Lakers, Grizzlies, Warriors. Obviously, we don't expect.
I mean,
the
why
Lakers
would we go
to
off
be there.
this past season?
What else are we supposed to go off?
This is a new season with new
we can
talent.
just talk about it now.
Yeah,
talk about the teams now.
For example, the Spurs. Are the Spurs going to be better than any team in the East?
No.
Wait, any team? They'll be better than Orlando.
They'll be better than Orlando.
It could be better.
What
than
about
Cleveland.
Sacramento?
That's debatable.
Is Sacramento?
It could be.
Who is
player-wise?
Is Sacramento better than
talent-wise?
Is Sacramento better than Washington?
Yes.
Debatable.
You think they're better than Washington?
I think so. 100%.
Debatable.
Are they better than Chicago?
No.
No way.
Are they better than Indiana?
No.
No, they are not.
If you said no to Chicago, you have to say
Are they better than Toronto?
Whoa. I think Chicago's better than Indiana
Debatable.
right now.
Debatable.
Are they better than Indiana?
No.
Are they better than Toronto?
Nope.
No.
Or what about this other team in the Western Conference, OKC? They're not better than any of these teams in the East outside of Orlando.
I think they're better than OKC. Sacramento, I think.
OKC's in the West though.
That's what about West versus East.
But you just said
we're talking about West versus East.
OKC now versus the
against the against
no OKC.
No, we're talking about OKC
you just
versus
switched
East.
on me real quick.
There's only one team that you can definitively say the Kings, OKC, and the Spurs are better than in the East, and that's Orlando. Every other team.
What about the Pistons?
The Pistons with Jeremy Grant, Cade.
First season, you're already in.
I mean, with Cade, I'm all the way in. I think he's a star.
I think he's definitely a star.
I think he's
a
star.
Just, I don't know if I'm going right off rip.
San Antonio has no star. OKC Shea is a star, but he was hurt last year. And outside of Shea, OKC doesn't have much to work with.
You think the West
Timberwolves
healthy? Absolutely.
You think the West is 11 deep?
We didn't mention the
The East is
we didn't
like
mention
14
Yeah,
deep.
that's what I'm
We
saying.
didn't. 14 is strong.
The East is 14 deep.
No, because you. So
But
Cavaliers.
wait, you did
Cavaliers
just call
are
the East weak in the
like,
group
bro,
chat.
Yes,
like
that's
an hour
exactly
ago.
No,
what I'm saying.
Atlanta's path was weak.
Oh, okay.
Atlanta's path was weak.
It's like I'm Cavaliers. You're in on them over those teams that we mentioned. Are the Cavaliers
13 deep. They're 13 deep. I'm not, but I think the Cavs are better than the Spurs and OKC.
Magic and the Pistons?
Pistons, I'm in on.
Magic, nobody's in on.
I don't know. Rough. Wizards?
Yeah, if they're getting Spencer Dinwiddie
Are they for sure getting Spencer Dinwiddie?
right
No,
now,
yeah.
he's
Because if we're
leading
going
there.
off right now, which is
I
what
mean,
we're-
right now, even with Beal, Kuzma, Harrell, and the guys they have,
yikes.
that's not bad of a. That's not that bad of a team. They have good depth.
That's not a playoff team.
No, but we're not talking about a playoff team. We're just talking about teams that are deep. Like the Eastern Conference right now, these are the teams that didn't make the playoffs last year in the Eastern Conference. Chicago, Cavs, Magic, Hornets, Raptors, Pacers.
Now just run off the teams in the West that didn't make the playoffs.
The Kings, the Pelicans,
Timberwolves. So that's three right there.
OKC.
That
And the Warriors, right?
Warriors. Yeah, they didn't.
Warriors
make it.
too.
So probably the Warriors and the Tims are the only teams you can definitively say are good teams on that list.
Pelicans. I wouldn't say they're good, but they're definitely not
And the
bad.
Spurs.
Spurs aren't good to me.
I know the Spurs aren't good enough. I'm talking about teams that didn't make the playoffs.
And Timberwolves also.
I said the Timberwolves
Yeah.
and the Warriors are for me the only good
Timberwolves
teams.
healthy
So
are
Kings,
a really good team.
Your
Teams aren't good.
Rashawn Holmes, De'Aaron Fox, Halliburton,
It's
Buddy
about the
Hield,
coaching. It's about coaching for them.
which is fine, but I'm talking strictly talent.
I mean,
we have to take into account the winning aspect of it as well.
But then how can we be? Look,
the
you
Pelicans are
said
always
Cavaliers are
talented.
out,
They
but
don't
then
win.
Pistons. Are you gonna give?
But the Kings, realistically, outside of De'Aaron Fox, they're mid. Like Rashawn Holmes.
He's good. No, he's very good.
Rashawn Holmes is average. He's an average center in the league.
I'm gonna disagree.
Is he better than Jared Allen? No, he is not.
I'm gonna take him over Jared Allen.
Okay, whatever.
I'm
Yeah,
taking him over Jared
Now the
Allen.
face.
or whatever.
Yo.
If you're
he
taking,
is
okay,
nuts.
whatever. You're taking him over Jared Allen. That's a ridiculous take.
Ridiculous.
It is.
It's ridiculous.
It is ridiculous.
Tell me.
You just have to watch them play. Rashawn
of
Holmes is
course.
not Jared Allen.
I mean,
Jared Allen isn't a star though, but Rashawn Holmes is not as good as Jared Allen.
I'm gonna push on that for sure.
All right, whatever. A better defender, Jared Allen's a better defender.
For sure. No, I'm not gonna take
Better
that away
rim
from
runner,
him.
better rebounder. That goes to Jared Allen.
Easy.
What does Rashawn
easy.
Holmes do better than Jared
His
Allen?
offensive game is definitely better than Jared
What does he do
Allen's.
offensively?
He's a better post player than he is.
Post player?
He-
Rashawn Holmes doesn't post
We
up.
didn't got to the point where we're
I know,
arguing.
Rashawn
Rashawn
Yeah, this
Holmes
is
versus
ridiculous.
But that's on you because you're saying it's ridiculous. But it's
It
not
is.
ridiculous.
Jared Allen is better than
You
Rashawn
say you watch
Holmes.
all every single game, every single team, right? So you
I
clearly
lit-
don't know about Rashawn Holmes.
I've literally done a film analysis on Rashawn Holmes.
Really?
That's why I know about him.
Then explain to me what he doesn't have.
He doesn't have an offensive game. He's a rim runner.
Then how many points did he average this season?
He averaged 11 per game.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's see.
Check it out.
You two are hilarious, bro. Yo, Jared Allen and Rashawn Holmes, really? That's what we-
14.2. He averaged 8.3 rebounds. He averaged 1.6 blocks.
solid.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is good. That's all I'm
solid.
saying. What did Jared Allen do? Miss almost half the season?
Jared Allen didn't miss almost half the season. He played for Cleveland.
And how many games did he miss of that?
Yo,
He played most of Cleveland's games.
Let's see.
if I could record y'all, I really would.
I mean, we're recording.
We're
right
recording
here.
right now.
Not like on my phone though. Like you guys are crazy, bro. Is he better than Jared? No,
Jared
he's
Allen,
not.
11.2. He averaged 10.4 rebounds, so a little under one, and he averaged the same amount of blocks.
Jared Allen is a better defender than Rashawn Holmes.
To say ridiculous, no,
It is
all-
ridiculous.
I don't know, man.
It is ridiculous.
I don't know.
You just have to watch them play to know.
We need the fans on this.
Apparently, right?
You just have to watch them play. And
Apparently.
plus, look at Jared Allen's numbers with Cleveland versus Brooklyn because that's the entire season stats.
Let's see. Let's see it then.
One. I hope you're a basketball reference. It really breaks
That's
it down.
what do you think I'm doing?
Perfect.
He averaged 13.2, so even still, it was less than Rashawn Holmes
So with
on
the
a
guard,
terrible team.
what is Rashawn Holmes on?
I agree, but he's not the star player.
Jared
Jared
Allen is not the star player on Cleveland.
Agreed. You got me there.
Garland
for sure.
and Sexton are both better than him.
But if I'm being honest, Rashawn Holmes, like, what can he do that Jared Allen does other than really defend, apparently, even though they average the same amount of blocks?
Rashawn Holmes can defend, but he's not as good as the defender as Jared Allen. Rashawn Holmes is
So
6'9".
his offensive game's a little bit better than his.
So you think points per game means you're a better offensive player?
I mean, I've watched Richaun Holmes play. I know he can get a bucket. He can't obviously shoot, but he has
but
good
you're
game
saying
down low.
he's a better offensive player, and
Yeah,
your basis for that is that because he averages more points per game.
Doesn't that usually correlate? You average more points, you're a better scorer.
I know where he's about to go with this one.
So Colin Sexton averaging 25 points per game.
He's a good scorer.
He's a better offensive player than Ja Morant?
Why would you say that?
He averages more points.
But come on, obviously one. Okay,
so points per game, it doesn't mean you're a better offensive player. How did Jared Allen
translate to wins though? Because that's obviously the difference in Ja Morant to Colin Sexton. Ja Morant's game translates to wins because he's a better playmaker.
I can name you a bunch of scorers who average more points per game who aren't better scorers than these said players.
We're comparing two centers whose games are very similar. One averages more points, other averages like 0.8 more rebounds, and they average the same amount of blocks.
Blocks also don't indicate you're a better shot blocker. These are all basic stats. These aren't advanced stats. You look into the PR, look into all the advanced analytics. Jared Allen beats Richaun Holmes.
Then pull up all of these things that you're talking about.
I'm not going to argue the entire show about Richaun Holmes versus Jared Allen, but I'm just saying, you watch Jared Allen play. He is a better defensive presence because he has more length to him. He's 7 foot.
Richaun Holmes is still an athletic center as well.
Yes, but he's not as good as Jared Allen.
I mean, tomato at this point.
Yeah, he's not as good as Jared Allen.
That's okay. You can look at the film and realize that
I watch more basketball than you.
Really?
Yes, I do.
You said that Richaun Holmes averaged 11 points. You were 3 points off. So apparently you don't watch as much as you claim.
Move on.
Well, looking at a stat sheet doesn't mean I don't watch it. It just means I didn't pay attention to how much he averaged per game.
You apparently knew all this information on Richaun Holmes. I'm just enlightening you. You didn't know as much as you knew.
No, I didn't know how much he averaged per game. But in terms of watching the film, I do watch more basketball than you.
I don't know. You're making me doubt it.
I mean, you could doubt it all you want. Doesn't change the reality of it.
Maybe, man.
Doesn't change the reality of it.
Who knows?
Doesn't change the reality of it.
Let's go on to
about.
You went like this. I don't know. To pound me.
So at the end of the day, I think the Eastern Conference is deeper than the Western Conference because the East goes 13 teams deep, especially going into next season with most of these teams being healthy. That's why I think the Eastern Conference is more deeper than the Western Conference, and why Jared Allen is better than Richaun Holmes. And we could talk in the comments down below on this full episode. If you're looking at this debate, we need to get Jared Allen versus Richaun Holmes. Who is better? Because obviously Andrew goes by basic stats, and that's how he determines who's a better player than. That's
right, because you don't know the basic stats. So,
I mean, I guess, man. Right? I guess
if you don't know the basics, how can I expect you to tell me the real?
I guess basic stats are everything.
So can we agree that the West is top heavy, better than the East?
The Western Conference top heavy is definitely better than the Eastern Conference. There's more championship contenders in the Western Conference. You have Phoenix, you have Lakers, I think Denver, even healthy,
Clippers
is a championship contender.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So they're definitely more top heavy, but in terms of those bottom teams, I think the East has more competitive bottom teams because they've been worse for longer, so it means they've had better picks for longer. So they have been accumulating talent for a while now. Okay. Now on to the next topic. Jalen Green got drafted by the Houston Rockets, and this begs the question if he is the future of the Houston Rockets. Brian Shaw, G League Ignites coach, said that he has Kobe Bryant and Paul George's mindset, and said he has a similar mindset to both of those players.
He has Paul George mindset?
I know. To combine Paul George and Kobe is
What's Paul George's mindset?
I'm not even sure, but Brian Shaw did coach Paul George in Indiana.
So he's talking about Indiana PG.
So he knew about Paul George in Indiana, and he's coached Jalen Green closely, and he feels like Jalen Green has a lot of similarities to Paul George and Kobe Bryant. Do you think Jalen Green is going to be that franchise-changing player for Houston, or do you have doubts?
Well, first of all, I love it. I love PG. I know my vibe with Paul George. So for starters, if he got PG mindset and Kobe mindset, that's a great way to start. I do think he has franchise talent written all over. I think Houston made the right pick. They made the best pick they could have made. I think with James Harden leaving Houston, that the bright lights, the fancy city, I think you need a guy like this, a guy with the swag, a guy with the persona, a guy with the aura around him. I think you need that. And I think Jalen Green has the talent in him. He's a bona fide scorer. He has a couple things he needs to work on, obviously, but bona fide scorers in our league get praised.
For sure.
Bona fide scorers in our leagues get the deals. They get the shoe deals, the commercials, and I think bringing that energy to Houston is going to bring it back. Now, is it going to translate on the court? It's going to be interesting to see. It depends on who they put around them. They still, I think, need a dominant wing. Not a dominant wing, but they still need that wing. But I think so far so good. They got their point guard. They got their two guard. They got their bigs. They just need a wing. But I think he can definitely change the culture in Houston, change the franchise. And this is great because Harden just left. You get a bona fide scorer in. You're looking great. The process looks good. The rebuild looks good. So I think they're doing good so far.
Yeah, and to backpack off what you're saying, you lose Harden and you get a poor man's Harden and KPJ, who one obviously can score the basketball and facilitate the offense.
Oh.
And I thought you were going to say something. I apologize. But then you bring in a guy in Jalen Green. Do I think he could change bring this franchise to new heights or, heights that they once reached with Harden? It's going to be tough because Harden had to run into Golden State, and that's always going to be something that people look back onto Harden and think, he couldn't get it done. And it's unfair to Jalen Green because he's not going to have to face a team like the Golden State Warriors.
We don't know.
Very true. With the way that this league's heading, who knows where it's going to go in terms of stacking the deck and teams like that. But Jalen Green obviously has the complete offensive package. Only thing I look at is his assist numbers are kind of low. Obviously, he's not going to have to be the facilitator on this team because you have a guy in KPJ, but I would like to see him incorporate passing the ball a little bit so it's not as if a defense can just hone in on the fact that he's just a ball scorer and nothing else. I feel like he needs to improve in that aspect of the game, but obviously in terms of scoring the basketball, he's as good as it gets, averaging 18 points in the G League with pro basketball players. I definitely think that he can bring the Rockets to the playoffs and when it comes into the future, obviously, because he's just that different type of talent.
Jalen Green is a combination of Zach LaVine and Bradley Beal. And when I watched this game the very first time, I instantly noticed a lot of Bradley Beal in this game. But the impressive thing about Jalen Green is that he's 6'6". Bradley Beal is 6'3". Zach LaVine is 6'4". Jalen Green is 6'6", and he has insane hops, and he's just a bona fide scorer. He's a natural-born scorer. He's gifted in that department. I want to see Jalen Green develop his defense. I want to see him show effort on defense. And I think he has the ability to do so. And Steven Silas last year, he got put into an awkward situation with James Harden's departure, with Russell Westbrook's departure, with John Wall, with DeMarcus Cousins calling out James Harden. It was an awkward situation for Steven Silas. I think this year, a fresh start, getting Garuba, Şengün, Christopher, Green, is the start of a brand new core. I think Jalen Green can be the leading scorer in the NBA one day. I think he can average 25 to 29 points per game. That's how great he is at scoring. My one question, though, is, of course, defense. I also question if John Wall is going to stay in Houston next season.
He's a player option?
No, he's under contract. I would love for him to stay, though. And I know some Rockets fans are kind of iffy on the idea because they want the young guy to just go and grow, and they don't want Wall to be anywhere near them. But John Wall last year averaged 20 points per game, 7 assists per game. He made it really easy on Christian Wood, who Christian Wood right now needs a lob threat partner, needs somebody to pass in the ball. And John Wall, before his injury, was known as one of the best playmakers in the NBA. KPJ, he calls himself a point guard. I still have my doubts. I'm not sure if he's a true point guard. He's still a score-first player. He doesn't look to pass first. John Wall will look to pass first, but I think this core of Wall, KPJ, Green, Tate, Wood, then off the bench, Şengün, Kenyon Martin Jr., Garuba. They also have DJ Augustin, who's probably going to be the backup point guard. They have a lot of good talent on this team. I don't see them competing for a playoff spot or a play-in spot this upcoming season because the talent and the top of the West is just insane. But this is a team who can grow together, and hopefully if these guys grow and reach their potential, they could be a very scary team down the road.
So where would you see John? Do you see John Wall starting still?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's
so
nobody
KPJ off the bench?
No, KPJ will start.
Oh, so Jalen off the bench.
No, they will all
I
start.
think they're shade down. So Wall at the one, KPJ
I
at the two.
think Wall, KPJ, Green. Green can be the 2 or 3. It doesn't really matter. And then I think at the 4, you still have Jayshawn Tate. And at the 5, you have Christian Wood.
Small lineup. Okay.
You think so? KPJ,
Jason Tate's 6'4".
Jayshawn Tate, 6'5".
Oh.
Pretty sure, yeah.
PJ height.
Yeah, Christian Wood, 6'11", 6'10".
Jalen Green 6'6". He could probably
a bunch
play
of
the 3.
6'6", 6'5" guys, and then Christian Wood.
Yeah, he's a tall dude.
Unless they start Garuba.
I
wouldn't be opposed to that.
Yeah,
with you Wood at the 4, or maybe Garuba at the 4, Wood at the 5, either or.
They also just signed Daniel Tice.
Why?
for a 3-year, $30 million contract, $36 million
I know,
contract.
and you get Sengun, Garuba,
What the hell?
Wood, now him. That's
You
interesting.
gave him $12 million a year?
I'm pretty sure that was his contract, yeah.
For what? All right, whatever.
He's a decent role player.
Yeah, no, I get that part, but
Mhm,
it's just like
mhm.
you just picked up Garuba, you just picked up Sengun. I don't get the point. You have Christian Wood, you have Kenyon Martin, who kind of plays the 4. You have Jason Tate.
I guess Garuba is more of a 4. Theis is definitely a center.
Yeah, but the direction of your players, you're looking like you're gonna go small anyways. So
true.
it's like, I mean, I guess Daniel Tice, but 3 years.
Yeah, it's a lot.
I don't know.
I think it was a good move because he's a good backup center. I think
I agree.
Sengun can play either spot. He can play a backup 5. He can be the backup 4. I think Tice just gives him some stability and some depth because you don't want to solely rely on these rookies to come in right away and contribute. You have to have some veterans.
I think with Garuba being limited in offense, though, he's more suited for the 5, to be honest.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, but I feel like because he can play or guard 1 through 5, it allows him to play that.
But that's what I think
You're right.
it'll
His
be okay at the
offensive game
5.
is really limited.
Yeah.
You know, you're making a good point.
I think he'll be smooth at the 5.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
Like if he's just a rim runner,
How tall is Garuba? 6'10"?
he's 6'8".
his wingspan
Okay,
makes up
see,
for
that's
it.
what I'm saying. I don't know
What's
if he
his
can play.
wingspan, like 7'3"?
Yep.
Yeah, that's OD.
Good.
But I still classify him as a 4. I don't classify him as a 5.
I agree.
In small ball lineups,
Yeah, that's
absolutely.
what I was really thinking. Like,
But because yesterday, Spain versus USA, they had him in a small ball lineup. He was guarding Bam Adebayo. But in terms of a full 82-game season, I think he's a 4. He can play either position.
I think I would have Wood at the 4, him at the 5. Because 4s are more of the stretches. So I would have Wood stretch 4. You have Garuba at the 5. Yeah, Wood is taller.
Okay. No, I get what you're
obviously,
saying.
Garuba
I
is
get
a
what you're
better
saying.
defender. I don't know. They could do a lot of things with that lineup.
Definitely.
It's definitely going to be tricky. John Wall staying, I mean, it's definitely going to help the guys. 44 mil.
But what's his value if you really trade him, though?
I don't think nothing.
That's why I guess trading him.
Because his
Keeping
contract, it's not even like he's still a good player. And I think he'll help. Like I
They
think
can't trade his contract.
Yeah, I think like a team like Boston could really use a guy like John Wall, but at the same time, $44 million, like you said, you couldn't trade him. And if you did, him being injury prone, him having that big max contract, it's just like
And how many years is he locked until? Do you have that?
2 years.
2 years? Yeah.
88 mil, 2 years.
I don't hate that. Keeping him on the squad,
Might as well.
develop at this
I
point.
don't think anybody's
going
gonna want to go to Houston at the moment, anyways. So
I don't know.
I
Jalen
just
Green
don't
could be
think.
attractive
I just
to
don't
some
think
guys.
anybody is going to trade for John Wall.
I agree.
Given his contract, given what they have to give up to even get John Wall, it just doesn't make sense for any team unless a buyout occurs. And at that point, you're cap strapping yourself if you're Houston if you buy him out. So there's no reason to buy him out. Just play him, and he can help groom these young guys and be that veteran leadership in the locker room. Because a lot of young teams get lost when they don't have somebody that can be that presence, be that veteran presence on that team. That's what's happening in Sacramento right now. They have been in the same position every year because they don't have that veteran presence. We see a lot of these young teams get lost. They don't have those veterans on the team. And I think that's why John Wall, even guys like Christian Wood, Daniel Tice are important to Houston right now. Even Daniel House and Eric Gordon is still on the team. I think it's more likely that Eric Gordon gets dealt
I agree.
than John Wall. I think Eric Gordon is probably going to get dealt.
yeah.
Yeah, that's a tricky situation.
Evan Mobley got drafted by Cleveland Cavaliers, and now the Cavaliers' starting 5 most likely is going to be Colin Sexton, Darius Garland, Isaac Okoro, Evan Mobley, and Jared Allen. Some people have said that this is one of the better starting 5s in the league that are under 25 because everybody in the starting lineup is under 24 damn near. And this begs a question. Where do you think the Cavaliers' young core ranks amongst the top NBA young cores? Where would you rank it? And we're talking about strictly 25 and under.
It really just depends on what you view their backcourt. You know what I'm saying? I think Mobley obviously he's not proven. Okoro, a lot of people weren't high on Okoro, and I think right now what we've seen from him is that he's a really good defensive player so far. Has a lot of room to grow. He's still a little raw on the offensive end, but he's a really good defensive player. Evan Mobley, we haven't seen. Jared Allen, I think we know what we're gonna see, and we know what he is. Garland, he kind of broke out last year and kind of got in his groove as who he is. Colin Sexton, I think we kind of got the idea of what he's gonna be. So, like, stacking it up, we can go down the list. I think Atlanta, better. Memphis, better. I think they fit more down with the Houstons and the Detroits right now. I don't think they're up there with Atlanta, Minnesota, Boston, even though Boston's not a lot, but JT and JB hold it down so much. The Pels, Phoenix obviously is at the top of the heat. Memphis, I think they're more down the line I think they're right under Charlotte with Houston, Detroit, the Knicks, because I think two of their guys are unproven in Okoro and Mobley, and then Jared Allen and Colin Sexton, we know what they're going to be. I think Darius Garland is kind of the tricky one because we still have yet to see. Like, we've seen a little glimpse. He can be that scoring, playmaking type of guard, but he's still relatively raw in a sense, so we don't really know yet. So I think they definitely they can fall into the top 10, but towards the end of the top 10 or creeping out the top 10.
So you have them right now just on the border of 10.
Cracking at the door, because with them, Houston and Detroit, it's a wait-and-see process for their main guys. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Still a wait-and-see process. Charlotte, we kind of know what LaMelo's going to be. Mm-hmm. And P.J. Washington, we know what he is. Miles Bridges, we know what he is. James Buckner, we're still waiting in the process. So I would put those guys at the wait-and-see, so they're right in there creeping.
No, I'm with you. I have them right now in that 10 to 15 range. And this is all indicative of what Mobley can be. If Mobley can be better than that, no doubt, I think they definitely creep into that top 10, especially when you have the bigs of Jared Allen and Mobley running that down low paint. It's going to be tough to score on them on that interior part. Now, like you mentioned, you have Garland, you have Sexton. Okoro needs to show me something more offensively. Defensively, he's definitely a good piece, but at the same time, 9 points a game rookie season. You show me a little bit. I need to see some improvements before I can give you the credit of being, a firm piece in this young core. Again, like I mentioned, if Mobley can be this comparable player to what people think he is, like an AD type player, where I don't think that's unreasonable expectation for him personally. But defensively, obviously, he's a strong force down low, and that's huge to pair with a guy with Jared Allen. And then offensively, that's what I need to see. I need to see how Colin Sexton and him are going to coexist in an offense. I expect Darius Garland to be the one to facilitate him in the offense a lot more than Colin Sexton, obviously, because Sexton's more of the ball dominant, get his own shot off type of ball player. But if they're going to translate that roster into wins, he needs to be more open-minded in the sense of, okay, I got guys that I can actually trust now. And then that's when I can start to truly give them their credit for their young core, because as of right now, it's not translating to wins. Yeah. And with that's why I have guys like Charlotte over them, because at least they're making some kind of noise in the East. The Pistons, I think I would take Cleveland right now over them just because they have an overall better starting lineup. Obviously, Cade has the potential to be the best player on both teams, of course, but it's a wait and see. Like I'm waiting and seeing on Mobley. So right now I'm going to stick within the 10 to 15 range, but definitely if Mobley can be that piece, they definitely go into the top 10.
Christian Wood is 25, right?
I think he's flat.
The Cleveland Cavaliers have one of the best young starting lineups in the NBA. Detroit, their starting lineup is very young, but Jeremy Grant pushes that lineup over, but he's over 25 years old.
26, I think he just got over.
Okay. I think he's 27. Oh. He's 27. And that's why, to me, I think Cleveland is top 10. The only teams I have over them are Phoenix. They're number one. They just made the Western Conference Finals. Their entire young core is basically their starting lineup outside of Chris Paul. Memphis, you have to put them there with the way they've been drafting. Atlanta, Trae Young, Cam Reddish, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, their guys, Kevin Huerter. They have a lot of guys. Minnesota, they haven't won, but whenever they have been healthy, they have won. With D'Lo, Cat are both all-star caliber players. Malik Beasley, I was high on him since he was in Denver. All he needed was an opportunity. Now he's averaging 20 points per game. Malik Beasley's a very good young player. Jared Culver hopefully can still develop into something. And also Jordan McLaughlin. I know that if you really watch basketball, McLaughlin, okay. Yeah. Jordan McLaughlin, if you watch Timberwolves basketball, he's one of the better backup point guards. He does really well per 36.
How you don't name Anthony Edwards, bro?
Anthony Edwards, too, of course. Yeah. Runner-up for Rookie of the Year. So they have a solid young core. Then you look at Boston and the Pelicans. Their young core has deficiencies because outside of their top two guys in Zion Ingram, Tatum, and Brown, their young core drops off tremendously. Pelicans, it's Nickeil Alexander-Walker, Jackson Hayes, Najee Marshall. And then with Boston, it's Payne Pritchard and Aaron Nesmith pretty much. And then the Hornets. I agree. Because they are more proven, you put them over Cleveland. But I'm putting Cleveland over Houston. I'm putting Cleveland over Detroit. Because I think...
put them over the Knicks.
Absolutely. Because when you talk about Cleveland versus Detroit, first off, Cade does have the potential to be better than the best player between both those teams. But you look at Darius Garland versus Killian Hayes. Garland has that matchup. You look at Sadiq Bey versus an Evan Mobley type of guy. I think Evan Mobley wins that matchup. You look, and then outside of those guys, that's really it, right? Because it's really Killian, Cade, Sadiq Bey, and then Isaiah Stewart. So Isaiah Stewart between Jared Allen, you have Jared Allen.
Diallo gave good minutes last season as well.
Who?
Hamidou Diallo.
Hamidou.
Yeah,
Hamidou.
he's a restricted free agent right now.
Okay.
So Cleveland, that's why I would put them over Detroit and even Houston, because Houston still they have a bunch of wait and see guys. The only guys that we have seen something from are Wood and KPJ and Jayshawn Tate, but I wouldn't even classify Jayshawn Tate in this conversation because he is about to turn 26 years old. And that's why I'd put Cleveland at number 8, because I think Evan Mobley, he's going to be a game changer type of player. I think he's going to fit pretty well next to Jared Allen because he can switch 1 through 5, and his offensive game is polished. I think he'll develop that three-point shot in his game, and I think Evan Mobley is going to be an all-star player.
Let me ask you a question. What about the young core in Golden State?
Jordan Poole, Kuminga, Moses Moody.
James Wiseman.
I wouldn't put them over Cleveland.
No, I'm saying, where would you rank them in
outside
general?
the top 10? Because
So like
Wiseman, we
range?
don't know what he is yet.
Agreed.
And there's arguments between him versus Onyeka right now. We're not even
good.
sure if he's going to be better than Onyeka. And then you look at Jordan Poole. He's good, but kind of like Kobe White, he's a spark plug off the bench. We still have to wait and see what he's going to become. Moses Moody and Kuminga are the key for their young core.
You're taking Houston's over Golden State?
Absolutely.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I would. It's just like, because with Cleveland, it's like, it's tricky. Like I said, the two guys, Okoro and Mobley, really have a chance to really define this young core.
Do you believe in Okoro? I don't mean to cut you off, but
I do.
Okay. So what do you think he could be? Off last season,
I was really high on him.
It's tough to gauge what he could be, truthfully.
I was high on him coming out of college.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was high on him, and it's
what's the shining aspect of his game?
His defense, his versatility.
For sure.
Absolutely. Like he was guarding players like Kevin Durant and James Harden from day one.
Mm-hmm.
You know, his defensive versatility, him being only 6'6" and being able to guard 1 through 4 is actually really, really great. His ceiling, it's really hard to say. I really don't know, you know, because it's like his offensive game coming out was so raw.
Yeah.
It's really hard to say what he can be, but he really has a lot of potential because he really works hard. His defense is already set in stone in year 2. So it's hard to say, but I think those two guys really are the key. I think Garland still has a lot of promise. I think Collins going to be what Collins is going to be, and same with Jared Allen. But those two guys really have a opportunity here to change the narrative of this young core.
Okay.
So it's tough. Like, I could have threw out teams like the Kings, but they only got De'Aaron Fox and Halliburton, and Bagley hasn't proven anything, and that's really about it. So,
Buddy?
You know, Buddy's not young. He's 29.
Really? Oh, my God. I forgot he was a senior when he came out. No,
he's
you're
not
right.
29. He turns 29.
You're right. I completely got 4 years at Oklahoma.
Not even 4 years. He was 24 coming out of college.
Just crazy.
Yeah, but he was so dominant. You know?
For real, he was really good in college.
Yeah, I would. Like I said, that core, Cleveland, Detroit, Houston, is really a wait and see for me. Like, I got to see what they show me this year because they have a lot of rookies that's carrying the weight for them.
One of the more surprising picks in the NBA draft was the Raptors selecting Scotty Barnes with the 4th overall pick. And a lot of people thought it was going to be Jalen Suggs. Even Jonathan Kuminga was a hotter commodity coming out of the draft. And now that they have selected Scotty Barnes, do you think Toronto makes it back into the playoffs with this selection, or do you think it's a wait-and-see process?
No, I think they were going to make the playoffs, you know, regardless if I'm not correct me if I'm wrong, but they get their home games back this year.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, yeah, so they get their home games back. They go home. I think they're fully healthy. You know, they've kind of got their identity back. Scotty Barnes fits that identity. And I think him being the most NBA-ready guy, I think they kind of looked at that pick as like, we want a guy with high upside, but that can also help us from day one. And I think Scotty being so elite defensively, being so versatile, being a playmaker, you know, I think he can come in that lineup of Fred VanVleet, OG, Pascal, Scotty, and whoever the 5 is. It's pretty. Even if they want to play Scotty at the 5, you know, they could run a VanVleet, Trent Jr., OG, Pascal, Scotty lineup, and that's still because Trent plays D2, so that's still a pretty solid defensive lineup, and that's a Offensively, it's going to be tricky. You know, that like I always said when Kawhi left, their problem was they didn't have a real go-to scorer
For sure.
down the stretch, and they still don't have that. So it's going to be tricky offensively. But a lot of teams, you can make the playoffs being an elite defensive team.
Definitely.
It's just offensively in the playoffs how. But speaking from a regular season standpoint, I think they were going to make the playoffs regardless. I think Scotty just only helps that because he is a playmaker. He can defend all 5 positions very well. And he has guys to learn from. Fred VanVleet, OG, Nick Nurse. So these are some solid guys. So I think this is a good group of guys that he's walking to. It's a good group of situation. And I think Toronto being as one of those respected organizations, guys come to work, and Scotty Barnes coming from Montverde, coming from FSU, he's kind of going to bring in that type of mentality, that type of work ethic. So I think this is going to be good for him. And I think Toronto is a lock to make the playoffs, in my opinion.
I think they are a lock to make the playoffs. I think it's not more so to Scotty Barnes. I think it's more so of them going back home. Scotty Barnes was definitely a solid pickup for them, especially for their identity of their team. They want to be known as a defensive powerhouse, and that's definitely what they can be. I just think that the aspect of them going home, them actually not having to be away all 72, because that was last season, 72 games is definitely going to benefit them. They have one of the best home court advantages. They're the only team in Canada. So obviously that benefits them in that sense. But talking about Scotty Barnes is definitely going to be an impact type player. I just don't know if it's going to be instant impact, given the fact that he needs to grow into his offensive game. If they're going to allow him to play that point forward position right off rip, then maybe they can speed up his development process in that sense. However, I just don't think, given the fact that they have a guy like Fred, they have a guy in Trent that they're going to probably give minutes to. Pascal Siakam's obviously going to be most likely their number one scorer on their team. Although I believe if they want to make that next level, Federico has to be that guy that takes that next leap, averages around 21, 23 points, around that for them to really be a strong contender. But I don't believe that personally.
I don't think it'd be Fred. I think it'd be OG, if anything.
Okay, and that's not a bad opinion either, because OG is definitely a versatile scorer. He's got a very good shot to him. It's just the only thing I worry about OG is his consistency, whether the Raptors are going to be willing to give him the ball or not. And now that you don't have a guy in Kyle Lowry there, maybe they want to find someone new in that. But then you don't want to get Scotty Barnes lost in that either, given the fact that you want him to develop into that number 4 overall pick that you drafted him to be. Of course, his primary thing is going to be defense, obviously, but at the same time, you want him to be an offense, have any kind of presence offensively. So I do think that there'll be a playoff lock. I think that Scotty Barnes is going to be a few years in the making for him to be that player that they're looking for, or that they had drafted him to be. But I think going into the next year, it's bigger than Scotty. I think that the home court advantage plays the factor.
There are too many teams in the Eastern Conference called the Toronto Raptors playoff lock. The Brooklyn Nets will be the best team in the league next season if they are healthy. They're not making the playoffs over them. The Milwaukee Bucks, defending champions, they are in the playoffs. The Miami Heat, getting Kyle Lowry, having Bam, Jimmy Butler, they are going to be in the playoffs. 76ers, even if they don't trade Ben Simmons, they will still be in the playoffs. Then you look at Boston with Tatum and Brown, fully healthy, not impacted by COVID, because they were one of the teams that were severely impacted by COVID. Atlanta, even though they will...
Boston's a lock?
Boston's
yes,
a lock.
absolutely.
Boston's a lock.
You have Tatum and you have Brown, you will be in the playoffs.
They struggled last year.
Atlanta Hawks, even though they will be a first-round exit next year, they'll still make the playoffs, even though they won't make it past the first round, but they'll still be in the playoffs. Right there is 6 teams, so that leaves 2 left. The New York Knicks just got better with Evan Fournier. We were the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference, and Elfrid Payton and Reggie Bullock were starting for our team. R.J. Barrett, 3rd-year leap, is still up and coming. It's going to come next year. You better be ready, because when he takes that 3rd-year leap, he's going to surpass Cam Reddish, and he's going to be on a different galaxy.
He's already better than Cam Reddish.
He's way better than Cam Reddish. It's not even a debate. So the Knicks with Evan Fournier, we needed a shot creator. Evan Fournier brings that. Last 2 years in Orlando, he's been averaging close to 20 points per game and been shooting close to 40% from 3. We needed a guy like that. And then you look at these other teams, Indiana, fully healthy. They're not going to be a cakewalk. Chicago, getting DeMar DeRozan, having Zach LaVine, having Vucevic, and Lonzo Ball. They're not going to be a slouch either. So the Raptors, I think, will be in that mix. but it's going to be hard for them to get over these teams because they have made significant moves and have brought in proven players. Chicago brought in DeRozan. He's a proven player, an all-star guy, one of the best Raptors of all time. Indiana brought in a proven coach in Rick Carlisle. All these teams made major moves. When you look at Toronto, they drafted Barnes, but they didn't sign anybody in free agency. They're about to trade Goran Dragic or buy him out. They're not even going to get him from the sign and trade with Lowry. They're going to get Precious, and I think Precious is good, but Precious only averaged 5 points per game last year. He's not by any means proven. Even though he's a good defender, he's not a proven player. Scotty Barnes defensively brings something special to Toronto, the ability to switch 1 through 5. But at FSU, he came off the bench, and that's okay because Leonard Hamilton has his guys come off the bench that first year.
Will came off the bench.
Exactly, Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell. But Scotty Barnes is not a good offensive player right now. He has the tools to be that, but he's a transition fast break scorer at this moment in time. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jalen Johnson in that aspect, even though he's far more developed than Jalen Johnson, and that's more of a knock on Jalen Johnson being super raw. But Scotty Barnes, he's an okay passer, but he still has to grow into his offensive game. And I don't think that's going to happen his rookie season. I think OG Anunoby has to take that next leap. He has to average 20 points per game because last year, Fred VanVleet was pushing it a little bit. He was shooting too much. He was jockeying at times. He was ball hogging because he had to be that scorer. Siakam, we know he can be the second, third option on the championship team, but when asked to be that first, he struggles being that. And off the bench, Malachi Flynn, are we counting on him? I think he's okay. Gary Trent Jr., I think he's a really good player, but right now he's a spot-up shooter. He's not a guy who can create a shot at a consistent rate. So right now, Toronto has some holes to fill. First of all, they need to fill that center position right now. They need to bring back Kem Birch or sign somebody in free agency to fill that position up. But Toronto's going to be a great defensive team, but in terms of their offense, they might be a bottom 20 offense in the league next season.
The reason why I wouldn't say Boston's a lock is because they struggled last year, and they were in the play-in last year, and I don't think they significantly got better than that last year's team. I think they kind of got worse, losing Fournier, trading Kemba Walker. They just traded Moses Brown. I mean, they got Al Horford. That's good, but they haven't really – they're about to trade Marcus Smart, which I think is going to really –
Are they going to trade Marcus Smart?
Brad Stevens has talked about he wants to trade Marcus Smart, and I think that's really going to put them. Mistake. That's going to put them in a really bad situation. It's going to be a lot of JB carrying. I think if one guy goes down, it could really be wraps. I wouldn't say Boston's a lock yet, but I think Toronto's definitely going to be in that hunt just because of the fact that, like you said, they're going to be elite defensively, and you guys were a bottom 20 offense, and you were elite defensively, and you got in as a 4th seed. So I think Toronto can do it. I think they can play at that defensive level that you guys did and still be able to, because I think they have a little bit better offensive players than you guys, so I think they can still be in the hunt. But like you said, I can't forget the fact that teams got better. The Bulls, Charlotte, Indiana's coming back healthy. I can't put that aside. But I think Toronto, with the experience, with the continuity that they have, those guys were playing. They won a ring together. They've been playing together for a long time. With Nick Nurse being their coach, I think it's safe for me to say that they'll be a lock for the playoffs.
But that core is gone. Kawhi Leonard left. Norman Powell left. Kyle Lowry left.
Yeah, but
Serge
VanVleet,
Ibaka
Siakam,
left.
OG still there.
OG was injured the entire run.
That is very true.
It was just Fred and it was just Siakam.
That is true.
That's the only guys that are left. That entire core has left. Marc Gasol even left. They only have those 2 guys left. People question the Scotty Barnes pick so much because when Toronto picked Scotty Barnes, people questioned, what does this mean for OG? What does this mean for Siakam? Scotty Barnes is a 6'9" point guard. He's not going to be that forward. He can play point forward, but he's going to they drafted him because they think he can play point guard. And he can play point guard, and that's his natural position. He's getting these comparisons to Giannis, but he's not Giannis. He's a more athletic Kyle Anderson. He's an Andre Iguodala Warriors Iguodala. He's a guy who's going to facilitate the offense. That's why, for me, it's hard for me to kind of put a ceiling on Scotty because he has all the physical tools to be this star player. But from a play style perspective, when you watch him play, he looks very much like an offensive initiator role player type of guy, getting everybody to their spots, making sure the offense is running smooth. He's not so much thinking about him scoring. He's thinking about the team and how he can run the offense effectively. And maybe that was a knock on FSU, because FSU was one of the slowest paced teams in college basketball. And the NBA, when you have the floor more spaced out, when you're not running as many plays or sets, he gets the ability to really be himself and free his offensive game. So maybe we'll see a different Scotty. But for me, I'm not sure if in his first year is going to make enough of a big enough of an impact to put them at the top of the East or even as a playoff team.
No, it's not blind to say they can't be a 6 seed though.
So you think they'd go over Atlanta, Milwaukee, Philly, the Nets, the Bucks?
I think Atlanta. I don't
think he's saying over them. I think those guys are definitely.
No, I'm thinking, but you got to remember, a team can be over a top team, but other things happen. I think Miami's an injury away. You know, Jimmy Butler was out, and they struggled in the beginning. Jimmy had to come back and carry them.
Backpack.
Atlanta was dealing with a lot of injuries, and they still have those same players.
That was more so due to COVID.
What?
Miami.
Oh, but I'm saying it's still, you know what I'm saying, COVID is still here. You know what I'm saying? So it's like.
Good point.
But if COVID is still here.
It's going to impact everyone.
Of course. But if COVID is still here, that means that Toronto might not get that home court advantage.
Agreed.
If the same thing happens next year.
That's going to hurt them. And Florida just got hit with, I forgot.
20,000 cases.
But I'm saying.
Right now there's a second wave of the Rona going on.
With Boston, you know, I feel like Boston's a Jalen Brown injury or JT injury away from completely falling.
I don't know. Jalen Brown was out that series against the Nets, and they still took a game. Obviously, I don't think that's going to be indicative of their season if one of them goes out. But they still showed the ability to beat a top team with just one of them.
It's going to be tough.
And they got Horford back.
I'm going to wait and see on that.
He was good in OKC.
It's good. It's easy to be. We've seen that it's easy to be good in very bad situations. We just said it. Kelly Olynyk was an 18-point per game gunner out in Houston, so it's easy to be good. And they're probably going to ask him in Boston to be that guy that, you know, has to guard Embiid 4 times a year, Giannis 4 times a year.
If that's his only job, though,
that's a hard job.
It is a tough job. Very true at his age.
He was doing that 2-3 years ago.
True.
Now we're 2-3 years later. You know, so it's tough. Let me backtrack. They're a play-in lock. Let me say that. That's a better way to say it. Toronto is definitely a play-in lock. I don't want to say playoff.
That's a good statement.
7th and 8th seed, they play for a play. Okay, so Toronto is a play-in lock. I'm going to say that better. Let me backtrack and say that better. So that's what I think.
Another surprise pick within the top 10 was OKC drafting Josh Giddey. I thought this was a great pick. I've been vocal about me being super high on Josh Giddey. Looking at his game, he reminds me a lot of Joe Ingles. Also, he has Nicholas Batum, but watching his game more and watching this other player yesterday, I think he's a taller Ricky Rubio. And Ricky Rubio, he had all this hype coming out of Spain because he was so great in FIBA. But I looked at his FIBA stats, and his FIBA stats were pretty horrible. He hit his field goal percentage, his three-point percentage, his points per game weren't all that.
What was it?
It was like 38% from the field.
So Giddey.
Giddey's not 30% from the field.
What is he, like 40?
He's 44% from the field. Yeah, Giddey's a way better player than Rubio at that same age.
Bad clip from 3.
Ricky Rubio.
Facts.
Ricky Rubio never averaged double digits overseas when he played for the EuroLeague.
So what was the hype?
The hype was his FIBA run. He had a couple good games. Josh Giddey, to me, is kind of like a 6'9" Rubio, but I think he's more polished at the same age. And Josh Giddey has a certain mindset and toughness to him. He has an edge to him, and that's what I like the most. He averaged 11 points, 7 rebounds, and 7 assists in the NBL. And when you compare his stats to LaMelo in the NBL shot 37% from the field. Josh Giddey was at 42%. LaMelo 25% from 3. Josh Giddey was at 29% from 3. LaMelo shot great in the NBA. Whether you want to attribute that to him just improving in the offseason or him being more comfortable with the NBA rims or whatever you want to attribute it to, I think Josh Giddey can do the same thing based on his work ethic. He's already a high IQ player. He's one of the best passers in this draft, and he gets to his spots, and he can finish with both hands around the basket. I think the question marks around Giddey are kind of uncalled for people are drafting up these false scouting reports because they haven't seen him play. And between Kuminga, Bucknight, and Giddey, they're all three different players. Bucknight, you get the scoring, you don't get playmaking. With Kuminga, you just get a super raw, talented guy, but he might not pan out. With Giddey, you get the most NBA-ready prospect who played against pros, played well, and was the best player on his team, and it has the most potential outside of Kuminga. And that's why I think this was the right pick.
You said a lot. You said a lot. You know, like you keep doing this whole LaMelo Giddey thing, and I'm really getting a little bit annoyed that you keep doing that because you keep comparing them as if they're the same prospect when they're not. Why do you keep doing that?
They're not the same prospect, but the shooting splits for LaMelo was a major concern in the NBL.
Okay.
It was a major concern.
But I don't think
and Josh Giddey shot better than LaMelo.
Yes, but I think the shooting splits are not. That's not only Josh Giddey's only concern. You know, I think his frame is a concern. I think his defense is a concern.
LaMelo's defense wasn't a concern?
Nah, I think it was.
Yes, it was.
No, I'm saying like, okay. I think it was a concern. But LaMelo was just such a different prospect in viewers' eyes that you keep doing this comparison. It's very tough. Like, but nonetheless, Oklahoma City, I think they made the right pick in the span of getting SGA some playmaking help. I think with SGA being at Oklahoma City, he is a lot of the playmaking on his shoulders, a lot of the scoring on his shoulders, and he had to do a lot for that team. I think with Josh Giddey coming in, that relieves some of the pressure off him. So I think that helps. They obviously want to help SGA, and they want to get this team in the winning. So I think that's good. My thing is, I don't know where he's going to play because, you know, they picked up a lot of guards. They picked up Trey Mann. They got Giddey. They got Dortz. They got SGA. They got Theo Maledon. They got Ty Jerome. You know, I'm just throwing out guards that they have. You know, Josh Giddey being 6'8", he can play the 3. I don't think he's suited to play the 3 right now. I would probably slot him at the 2, have Dortz at the 3. But like I said before, you know, getting SGA some playmaking help, he had to do so much for that team last year. And granted, it didn't translate to full wins, but they were 16-19 or 13-16, I forgot. But they were, 3 games under 500. They were still very competitive with SGA doing most of the bulk of the work. So I think Josh Giddey coming in is going to really open up the court more because of his playmaking, and really is going to help this team and help SGA so where he can take plays off because he does so much for this team. So I think this was, it was surprising for me, but I think looking at it, going over it, looking at it, I think it was a good pick because it does help my boy SGA. So this was a good pick. I like it.
LaMelo was 6'7", 180. Josh Giddey, he just grew to 6'9". He's 6'9" now. He's 6'9", 205.
LaMelo was never viewed as a small forward. Josh Giddey has been viewed as a small forward. That's my difference. Like when LaMelo was coming out, we never viewed him. None of us never viewed him as a small forward.
Absolutely.
Everybody thought him as a guard. That's
but
why
we also viewed LaMelo as you can slot him 1 through 3
on offense.
Definitely, but I think you're looking way too deep into the positions of it because. Just because you are the 3 on paper doesn't mean you're guarding the 3 on defense.
That's true.
There's many ways to hide. So I think you're looking way too deep into the positions. For example, you mentioned I'd slot Dort at the 3 and the Giddey at the 2. That's really not relevant because regardless of whatever position they're slotted in, Dort is going to guard the best player on the opposing team. Regardless if the best player is a 1 or he's a 3, or Dort's going to guard the best player on that team.
That's true.
That's why I think Giddey.
But if the best player,
Giddey right now is viewed as a point guard. But for me, he can play 1 through 3. I can have him out there with Shea, and Shea can. They're interchangeable because Shea can play the 1 or he can play the 2. So it's really interchangeable. You can have Giddey at the 1, Shea at the 2, or Shea at the 1, Giddey at the 2, or Giddey at the 3. It's interchangeable at this point.
Yeah, but at the same time, you're looking at it like that, and I get that part, but really you do need positions because certain positions require a certain amount of strength or a certain guy to be at that. Like if Josh Giddey, like I said Josh Giddey at the 2, Dortz at the 3 because a lot of 3s are a lot more physical and a lot more stronger. I wouldn't want Josh Giddey guarding my 3 because he's not his frame. Even if the 2, like Dortz, say for example, okay, perfect example. Say, for example, they play Boston. JT and JB are the 2s and the 3s. Dortz can only guard one of them, you're gonna have to put Giddey on one other guy. Who you gonna put him on? JT or JB? JB's stronger than JT.
You probably put him on JB though.
Yeah, but it's like he's gonna get bullied.
Not really, because at that point, if you're OKC, you say, okay, this is the matchup. We're putting Dort on one of them. We put Shea on the other.
Shea?
Yes. If you think Giddey's that much of a liability on defense, you adjust and you put Shea on the other guy.
That's one of his weaknesses. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, but LaMelo out of NBL, his weakness was defense as well. His effort. Giddey's effort is not into question. And even at his frame,
worse, though.
Even if you're 6'9" and you're 205 pounds and he's only 18 years old. He's the third youngest player drafted in the last 5 to 6 years.
Okay.
He's going to grow more into his body. He's only 18 years old.
You say that, and then we look at KD, and he's still 6'11" and skinny. It's like, and then we look at Jared Allen. Like, you can't just assume.
Jared Allen got bigger.
Yeah, but I'm saying he's still a skinny frame. You can't just assume because he's 18, he's going to grow into this frame.
So Lonzo Ball, from rookie year to now, he's
it happened to Lonzo. It happened
up.
To Lonzo, but I'm saying you can't assume Josh Giddey's going to do that.
No, I can assume it because he's 18 years old. He's only a teenager.
You can't assume because not everybody's body works that way. You can't assume he's going to grow into that body.
Yeah, but even with the frame, it doesn't really affect your strength. You can still be strong and still have a deceiving frame.
That is true.
All right, I guess I'll give my opinion here. I don't believe it was a reach. I feel as if, like you mentioned already, you can interchange SGA, you can entertain Giddey. I just don't want to reiterate what you guys were saying because you guys kept going back and forth, so I'll make it quick. An underrated part of his game is that he gets rebounds. He averaged over 7 rebounds international. And I went to go look at, LaMelo's stats international compared to Giddey's. LaMelo averaged 7 more points than him. You're 100% right. Shot worse than he did. That being said, the assist to rebound ratio was pretty similar. So where where I was kind of scrutinizing Giddey for his field percentage, he just took less shots, and that's where LaMelo definitely thrives. But in an offense where he's not going to need to be the focal point and be the primary scorer, the pick's understandable. The only reason why it doesn't make sense to me is that you bring in Trey Mann. You drafted 2 point guards when you already have a point guard type player in SGA. You drafted one in Giddey. So now you're kind of losing me in why you selected Giddey, especially when you have a guy like Dort who's already playing that small forward position. My logic behind them drafting Giddey over a guy like Kuminga was that they have Dort there who's a great defensive player who has shown flashes on offense.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So then you draft Trey Mann. Now you lose me in the thought process behind that. But with Giddey's game, it definitely has room for improvement. A 6'9" frame, to over 200-pound type player. He's definitely an athlete. It's just a matter of how is he going to evolve offensively. That's my only question about him. But for what he's going to do for this upcoming season, which is basically feed SGA for him to get better shots off, I like it a lot, especially with OKC being a rebuilding type team, a development type team. Giddey's going to benefit from that tremendously.
I hated OKC picking Trey Mann.
Yeah, I don't get it, man.
Because I think Trey Mann has star potential, and he's not going to reach that with OKC. I think Trey Mann is going to be to OKC what Reggie Jackson was to them in the early 2010s.
Okay.
To that OKC team coming off the bench, being that spark plug. I think that's what Trey Mann is going to be. Like I said, I think Giddey can slot wherever, 1 through 3. He can slot in whichever position because he's a positionless player. And at 6'9", if he does add more muscle, if he does in 2-3 seasons get to 215, 220, we could be talking about a guy who can now play 1 through 4. So Giddey has a lot of potential, and I'm really excited to see what his ceiling is going to be.
Do you guys see a situation where they throw out a SGA, Trey Mann, Dort's Giddey lineup?
Giddey play the 4? That's interesting because I was thinking it, but I'm not too sure if his defensive liabilityness, you know what I'm trying to say?
I mean, at that point, they'll just be sacrificing offense for defense because Trey Mann isn't that good defensively either.
For sure.
So
it depends which scheme they want to draw up. If they want to be known as an offensive type team, then you go and you put Giddey at the 4. But I'm more the type of person that needs that too, and I'm more of a guy who wants an all-around type game. I don't want one thing or the other. I'm not going to say we saw that with Houston because obviously, they had a guy in PJ Tucker, Clint Capella, but obviously the complete opposite spectrum. They had Harden and and CP3, but I just don't want a repeat of that. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. And Orlando Magic had a questionable draft to a lot of people. The 2 picks they made was Jalen Suggs at the 5th pick and Franz Wagner at the 8th pick. Jalen Suggs averaged 14, 5, and 5, shot 50% from the field and 33% from 3. And Franz Wagner averaged 12, 6, and 3, and shot 34% from 3. Orlando, to me, in this draft, went for pro-ready guys who can contribute to winning right now and change the culture. They didn't want to go with the project-type player with Jonathan Kuminga, and I have to respect him for that because right now, Jalen Suggs, he does make them have a lot of guards, but Markelle Fultz is coming off of a serious injury, ACL injury. We're not sure who he's going to be yet. RJ Hampton showed flashes, but he's more of a tweener. Cole Anthony is a volume scorer, inefficient. Jalen Suggs is probably the best one out of Fultz, Cole, and RJ. And right now they need a franchise point guard. And that's why I think this Jalen Suggs pick, in hindsight, was a good pick because he can be that franchise point guard. As for Wagner, it's a little bit of a toss-up because even though you have Suggs, your 2-guard position isn't filled. I don't think you're going to start Markelle and Suggs or Suggs and Cole or Suggs and RJ Hampton. I think that's going to be a little bit of an undersized backcourt. Right now, Gary Harris is a starter. I probably still would have went with the Moses Moody.
Too.
Yeah, Terrence Ross too. I personally would have probably still went with the Moses Moody or James Bucknight at 8. But Franz Wagner, I think he's a role player at best. He doesn't have any star potential. He's just going to be a solid role player for his career. He's a good defender. He can space the floor. He can also play make a little bit. But their lineup just seems all over the place when you have Suggs, when you have Harris, when you have Isaac and Wagner, who kind of play the same role as big 4s, but they're not really 3s. And then Mo Bamba and Wendell, who knows who wins that matchup, and they just signed Robin Lopez in free agency. This team just feels a little bit all over the place, but they are in a rebuild, so that's bound to happen. And hopefully Franz Wagner shakes away this 8th overall pick curse, because the 8th overall pick the past 10 years have been Jackson Hayes, Colin Sexton, Frank Ntilikina, Marquise Chris, Stanley Johnson, Nick Stauskas, KCP, Terrence Ross, Brandon Knight, and Aminu.
I've only heard 2 names there that
Hey, Brandon was all right.
He was all right, but he was just known for getting Kyrie did
The only good players on this list are Colin Sexton,
KCP.
Terrence Ross, and KCP.
I agree.
So wait, KCP is good, but Brandon Knight's not?
Yes.
KCP's still in the league.
Okay, that's fair.
But KCP's still borderline. But the 8th overall pick historically is not a great pick, and hopefully Franz Wagner can change that.
I think drafting Jalen...
And Obi Toppin.
Oh, Obi, no. I think drafting Jalen Suggs and James Bucknight would have secured your backcourt for the next 5-10 years. I think that would have been the backcourt. You'd be like, all right, we have our backcourt. Let's focus on the front court. We've got our 2 guys that can be all-stars in this league together. We got our Damian Lillard, our CJ McCollum. We got our John Wall, our Bradley Beal, our Steph, our Clay. Like, we got our backcourt.
High praise.
You picked no, not saying they'll beat them. I'm just saying, yeah, you got your backcourt. You picked Franz Wagner. Franz
Wagner. Mm-hmm.
Franz Wagner. You picked him. Not saying he's a bad player. I watched Michigan. He was a really good player. He's a really solid player. He's a jack of all trades. He does a little bit of everything. But Orlando, you're in a position where you need a star. You traded Vucevic, your last star. Tobias is gone. Victor Oladipo's gone. Aaron Gordon's gone. Evan Fournier's gone. That core is gone. Mohamed Bamba is the last guy left. I think we already established what he's going to be. He hasn't panned out. Wendell Carter Jr., I'm a Bulls fan. I'm telling you, he doesn't even play enough. And when he does play enough, he isn't that good.
Is Okiki still running with them? Or?
He's all right.
Okay.
Okiki's all right. Like, that's a good player. Isaac's good, but he keeps getting hurt. Yep. Markelle Fultz keeps getting hurt. I feel like getting Jalen Suggs and James Bucknight would have established a ground point where you can start, figure out a plan, and then go about it. Right now, you picked Suggs, so you got that plan. But do you? Because you have so many guards, and now you got Franz Wagner, and it's just like you're in the loophole right now. You don't know what to do. So I feel like getting Bucknight at 8 would have solidified a plan right now. I think Orlando's kind of in a loophole. They're kind of stuck in, I don't know world with all those injuries to those guys. And mind you, Isaac is on an extension. Fultz is on an extension. So these guys are going to get paid for the next couple years. So I think they're kind of in a situation, and Cole is on a rookie deal. So I think they're kind of in a situation where they're kind of just like trying to put all the pieces together. But it's a bunch of jumbo pieces, pieces that don't fit. So they got to figure it out.
I like the draft that they had because I mentioned already earlier in the show, Jalen Suggs fell into their lap. Scotty Barnes, shocking the NBA universe going with the Raptors going Scotty Barnes, it allowed Jalen Suggs to fall right into Magic's lap. Now, to go into what you said a little bit, you said that, you want to establish the backcourt. I felt like by them going Jalen Suggs, they understand that they have this commitment to Markelle Fultz. So I'm just going to assume that Markelle Fultz is in their plan for the future, and they're going to put him alongside Jalen Suggs now too, which it doesn't sound too bad to me if Markelle can actually stay on the court and actually continue to improve like he has when he's been on the court. Now, I look at this Franz Wagner pick. I understand the pick 100%. I would have gone a different way, as in I would have gone Sengun, maybe Kai Jones. One of those two bigs because I don't trust the bigs they currently have. I mentioned Okeke. I think he had some solid minutes down the stretch, but the Magic really weren't doing anything, and he was really just a highlight down the stretch of garbage time basketball for Orlando. So I'm not going to go into too much or look into that too much given the fact that it was down the stretch. But I understand the Magic have needs, and they believe that Franz Wagner, a guy that can do a little bit of everything, may be that guy for them. I agree with Joel. I think that he is going to be a solid role player. I think that he can be good at that job for sure. I just think that there are other options. I just don't think that I would have gone all in on the double guard, given the fact that they have Fultz, they have a Cole Anthony, they have an R.J. Hampton. You mentioned Gary Harris as well. It's just too crowded, where even some people considered that Jalen Suggs wasn't the good pick there, which I couldn't agree there, honestly. I just felt like, you go best available. But I understand not going double guard. Franz Wagner can do a little bit of everything. So it's a big wait and see, but again, I don't hate it. I think that they made some solid moves. It's a big development, a big developmental process with the Magic right now. So they set themselves up for the future pretty well, especially with Jalen Suggs being a potential corner piece of this franchise.
I think Okeke starts next year.
I agree.
I think probably their starting lineup is going to be Jalen Suggs, Gary Harris, Okeke, Isaac, and then Bomba or Wendell. Who knows who's going to win?
Be back at the start of the season?
He should be.
I think he got hurt early.
He got hurt in the bubble.
Oh.
A torn ACL in the bubble, so he should be back. He should definitely
be ready
back.
right now.
Yeah, he should definitely be back.
And what about Fultz? You don't think Fultz will start?
Fultz got injured in the beginning of last year, right?
Yeah.
Fultz could start. It could be that 1-2. But I think for spacing purposes, having Suggs and Harris and Okeke.
Harris is another guy that gets hurt a lot, too.
Yeah, and then I would rather start Terrence Ross. I know he's been their sixth man for years, but
You're buck.
I just think that you need to have some spacing on the floor. And with Markelle and with Suggs, it's just not enough spacing. Markelle is an inconsistent shooter. He can shoot, but he's inconsistent. Because of that, I think that they have to get the floor space for Suggs because Suggs is a downhill player. You need spacing for Suggs. You can't have it crowded. And that's what I would do if I was Orlando. But I think Okeke should start because last year he did show a lot of flashes. He averaged 8 points, shot 36% from three. Sure. He was a really good player for them. He can defend as well. And I think Franz Wagner comes off the bench and he becomes that glue guy off the bench.
Don't want to cut you off just to give the information.
No, I'm good.
Fultz got hurt January 6th of 2020. So
what was the injury?
ACL.
So he should be back around October, November.
Something around that. I don't think that he'll be ready for the start particularly. I think they'll give him some time.
That's crazy, man. They keep getting hurt.
No, for sure. It's tragic, truthfully. But I just think that, you invested some money into him. Give him the time. You're not in a position to win anyway. Yeah. So why rush him back? Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the teams that had a great draft were the Charlotte Hornets. They drafted J.T. Thor, James Bucknight, Kai Jones, even Scotty Lewis from Florida, who was a highly touted prospect coming out of high school. And this begs the question, is Michael Jordan finally proving himself as a good owner or talent evaluator or drafter? I'm not even sure if we credit Jordan because it's been Mitch Kupchak who's really been making these moves, but I guess we'll just give some credit to Jordan. Is Jordan finally redeeming himself Since 17, these have been the Charlotte Hornets draft picks. Malik Monk, Miles Bridges, P.J. Washington, Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels, LaMelo Ball, James Bucknight, Kai Jones, and J.T. Thor. That's way better than what Michael Jordan used to draft. Michael Jordan used to draft Buss, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, Adam Morrison, Gerald Henderson,
Cody
Zeller, Frank Kaminsky. I think this is a major upgrade. So is he finally becoming a good owner?
You know, I'm not going to go all the way above and say he's a good owner yet. You know, it's still a wait-and-see process, but he has turned it around. You know, getting LaMelo, which I think was really good, getting P.J. Washington, Miles Bridges, even the Martin twins who play considerably good rotational minutes, and they're solid when they play. Devontae Graham, he found him. He played well for them. Malik Monk, he started to turn around, but obviously he left, but he was starting to turn around late. I think he's starting, you know, and getting Gordon Hayward in free agency, who people laughed at. It was like, why would you overpay? Gordon Hayward played significantly well. You know, I think being at that position right now where he's starting to really turn around, getting James Bucknight, I think this is starting to look really good on Michael Jordan's hand. I think he's starting to really understand where they are as a franchise. He's starting to understand what they have in their pieces. He's starting to understand what it like the draft process. You know, it took him a while. He was a player. At first, he was failing a lot. It was a bunch of really stupid picks, you know, in hindsight. And Michael Kidd-Gilchrist was really looked at as a clear number 2 pick. And then in hindsight, obviously, he was really terrible. But I think right now you can start to give him the kudos that he, you know, is starting to earn. You can start to respect him. Like, he's starting to become a more respected GM, and I think that's good for him because at this point right now, Charlotte is looking like they're going to be in the play-in. You know, they're looking like they're going to be a young team on the rise. The same hype Sacramento was getting a couple years ago when they was giving the Warriors hell that Steph Curry and Cade, they was giving them. I think Charlotte is going to start to get that love and start to be more in the playoff hunt, and I think that's good.
I think Jordan definitely has taken strides in the right direction. Of course, obviously, we're seeing the Hornets compete for the play-in spot. I don't believe they made it though. Correct? They lost to the Pacers, and then the Pacers.
By a lot.
Yeah.
Got smoked.
So before I can go all in to say that he's solidified himself as a good GM, I need to see it translate into postseason, you know, success in any sense of the word.
I think he made it like one time, right, with Kemba.
I think
Kyle
they were an
Jefferson.
Kemba,
but were they an 8th seed?
They played Miami. They were an 8th.
Which is
no, he went twice.
They went. Yeah, they did go twice.
Gave Miami hell, and then they got smoked out by LeBron.
So of course, making the playoffs is an accomplishment in and of itself. But at the same time, to be called, you know, to be good at your job, you need to have consistent success, and he's yet to have that. However, he's definitely made some solid picks, and I feel like LaMelo has put him in this position where people are finally starting to realize, you know what, maybe Michael is actually onto something, but I think that's more so credit to LaMelo Ball, truthfully. I mean, I think LaMelo Ball is an excellent basketball player. He has shown this season that he is the true jack of all trades. Of course, he can work a little bit on his defense, but at the same time, his shot was falling this season. He was attacking the basket with confidence. His playmaking is tremendous. His rebounding ability is tremendous. I feel like LaMelo Ball is the reason why this is heading in the right direction. And you know what? You take LaMelo out of there, too. They definitely did have some wins, but I feel like that energy that LaMelo brought to them made Charlotte feel as if, you know, we can actually compete. And I give a little bit more credit to LaMelo for this season's success just because of the spark that he gave them, but I'm not taking anything away from what Jordan's done. He's put pieces around prior to even getting LaMelo on this squad, and P.J. Washington, who I believe is a very good up-and-coming player. I just think I need to see it on a more consistent basis. His offensive game, he's shown that he can give 40 in a night, but then the next night he can go and he drop a calm 12. I definitely see the potential in him. I just need to see it on a consistent basis. This James Bucknight pick was excellent. I mean, you couldn't mess it up. He fell right into your lap there. It's an excellent selection by him, one of the best we mentioned in this draft. Bucknight could be arguably the best offensive talent in this game, in this draft. So definitely credit to Michael Jordan, but there's other aspects that go into it before I can really start to say, you know what, he's a good GM.
LaMelo Ball is the reason why Michael Jordan might be getting more recognition as a talent evaluator. But this begs a question. In the 2020 NBA draft, LaMelo Ball was a 3rd overall pick because Golden State passed up on him and took James Wiseman. Let's flip it. If Charlotte had the 2nd overall pick, do you think Jordan and the Hornets would have taken James Wiseman?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Why do you think that?
I think because they needed a foundational star. Like I think we talked about it, they needed somebody that was going to make Charlotte pop. And James Wiseman was not that guy. So I think they would have went LaMelo regardless because of the aurora around his name. And
100%.
Even though they've had Cody Zeller for years and needed a center, and they were locked at guards with Devontae and Terry Rozier.
Yeah, I think they were thinking we need something that's going to make Charlotte a destination,
100%.
something that's going to make Charlotte shine.
Because LaMelo could have gone to any team, and he would have brought publicity there.
Mm-hmm.
And he just so happened to land in
I think they
Charlotte.
would have went LaMelo regardless.
That's interesting.
You disagree?
I think he might have went Wiseman.
Say that one more time.
I think he might have went Wiseman.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking in the sense as if he went to 3, that Wiseman just dropped to 3. I'm sorry.
No. If Charlotte had the second overall pick and LaMelo and Wiseman are on the board, do you think the Hornets still take LaMelo?
Oh, that's a different question in my opinion.
That was my same
Okay,
answer.
no. I don't know. I think he leans best available, and he thinks that Wiseman's best available because people were thinking that Wiseman could be the number 1 pick in that draft. Personally, I thought that the Warriors should have.
Minnesota never thought that.
But it was in talks prior to that college season that Wiseman was going to be the number 1 pick. He ends up getting suspended, not being eligible to play. Of course, that plays a factor into his draft stock, in my opinion, at least.
Yeah, but with them having Cat, I don't even think it was in Minnesota's direction.
Very true. He was
No,
the,
but he was
the
he
number
could have
1
been number one
prospect. Correct.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
for sure.
So, in my opinion, I at the draft, I said you need to draft LaMelo Ball. Klay Thompson just went out. God forbid you have his replacement right here ready for you. They end up leaning Wiseman. Like you asked, do I think Jordan would have went Wiseman? I believe so. With the hype behind Wiseman prior to the draft, people weren't mad at Golden State going Wiseman. They thought it was a good pick. Hindsight, people have been bashing Wiseman. They want him traded already. He's a young talent, and I do think that Jordan might have gone LaMelo. He might have gone Wiseman, and I think that LaMelo has brought up Michael Jordan's name and saved him to a degree. Truthfully,
Why are you looking at me?
Definitely
I'm
as
just
an
talking to
owner.
you
And
guys.
as,
Yeah.
definitely as an
I don't
owner.
know because he picked, PJ Washington was before him. Miles Bridges was before him.
But also, Miles Bridges was traded, and the original pick was Shea.
Yeah, that sucks.
and that's rough.
That sucks. Nonetheless, I'm not saying Miles Bridges is a bad player or nothing like that, but he's made, even with the LaMelo thing, he got Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier turned out good. He
And
got
then
Gordon
Malik
Hayward.
Monk over.
Yeah,
Now I have a question.
those guys.
Was Jordan the GM in 2011?
I mean, he's been the owner this entire time.
So he traded away Tobias Harris. That's another name that he traded away. He kept Kemba Walker.
No, we know he was garbage
Yeah.
in the beginning. We know that.
He's just made a lot of questionable moves. I feel as if LaMelo, he lucked out in that sense.
To be fair, if you think if they get SGA, I don't think they get a top 3 pick.
With this lottery now, maybe they still do.
That's a good point. The
You
Pelicans,
think, but if
Because they weren't supposed to get it last year.
Okay, say for example they get 2 and they have SGA. I don't even think they go LaMelo regardless. Even if they get 3.
Possibly. It really depends, though. SGA playing the 2, LaMelo playing the 1, that could definitely work.
But you just said. But wait.
you said LaMelo playing the 1, SGA playing the 2.
You just said Devontae and what's the name, Rozier had it locked, right? So plug out one of the. If you think they wasn't gonna pick LaMelo with those 2 locked, what makes you think they was gonna pick LaMelo with SGA and Devontae locked?
Because I think when you have a prospect like Wiseman, who's 7 foot, who looks the way he looks, who has an NBA ready body already,
Yep.
Michael Jordan might have been fascinated by that.
I agree.
No, I'm saying you said they wouldn't have picked LaMelo with Devontae because Devontae and Rozier was locked in.
Depending on who's there on the board.
So I'm saying put both of them on the board. They have SGA though. You think they would have went LaMelo?
If Wiseman's on the board,
Yeah.
I think they probably go Wiseman.
I don't know, bro. Wiseman.
Because
Charlotte
Cody Zeller,
wasn't thinking about Wiseman at all.
Zeller's been their center for years.
Yeah, but Devontae wasn't like they knew Devontae wasn't a starter, and Charlotte wasn't thinking about Wiseman at all, like at all.
You don't think so? I don't know. I got to check the
Even Golden
pre-draft
State-
I think
reports.
given the fact that LaMelo came in, it made the decision a lot easier. But that last season, Devontae was balling.
Agreed.
LaMelo comes in, obviously he
Yeah.
takes the playtime away from him.
That's a good ass question.
No,
It's a really good.
very good. But I do believe he goes Wiseman, and I think that LaMelo has.
I don't know because people the only playing 3 games really pushed people away.
Definitely.
It took Golden State a while to realize they wanted Wiseman.
I didn't think they wanted Wiseman.
it was a lot of smoke screen. Them might taking LaMelo. So I don't know. That's yeah.
Now onto the last topic of this show. The worst pick of the draft was by the San Antonio Spurs, selecting Josh Primo with the 12th overall pick. And this begs the question, are the Spurs an overrated franchise when it comes to evaluating talent and selecting in the draft? Since 2014, these have been their first-round picks. Kyle Anderson, Nikola Milutinov, DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Lonnie Walker, Luka Samanic, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, Josh Primo. Their best pick has been DeJounte Murray in the first round. And DeJounte Murray is a good player, but they have not drafted an all-star since 2014 in the first round. They have also not picked in the highest of spots as well.
Wasn't that a trade too?
No, they drafted DeJounte.
What was the George Hill trade? No, it's about for Kawhi.
George Hill was the George Hill trade. Yeah, that was in 2013, I believe, or 2012. One of those.
So they didn't even draft Kawhi, right?
They drafted him. They did draft him.
Okay.
But the thing about it is that if you look at the Spurs draft history in the past 20 years, the only players that they have drafted in the first round that have became all-stars have been Tony Parker and Kawhi Leonard, which means that in that 18-year window, they have not drafted any all-star. And this is a team that gets a lot of credit for scouting. But in reality, I think they're overrated because Tim Duncan is really the reason their franchise got saved when they got the number 1 overall pick and they lucked out because David Robinson was hurt. That won in a championship. Tony Parker obviously was a great find. Manu Ginobili also in the second round. That really set up their franchise for success in a matter that whatever guys you surround around that big three, the team will still be successful. They didn't have to draft well. And then Kawhi Leonard, they made that pick, but I think Kawhi Leonard becoming good was more in part to him just having a legendary work ethic more so than their development, because ever since drafting Kawhi, they have tried to draft these athletic guys like Lonnie Walker. He hasn't panned out. Devin Vassell, we'll see what he becomes. Kyle Anderson, out of UCLA, he was good, and he's turned into an okay NBA player, but he hasn't turned into he didn't turn into that with the Spurs. He turned into that in Memphis. Mm-hmm. DeJounte Murray, Derek White is okay. He's average. I mean, Keldon Johnson averaged 12 points per game last year. I mean, these guys, I feel like none of them stand out, and Josh Primo might be another one of those guys who probably is just a 3-and-D player in the NBA.
I think everything you just told me basically said the Spurs know how to draft good players. Just solid, good guys who can start in the league or come off the bench. DeJounte Murray's a good player. Derek Wright's a good player. Keldon Johnson's becoming a nice, solid player. Devin Vassell, I think he's going to be a nice, solid player. But I think a lot of this is a testament to Greg Popovich's stubbornness. I think over the years, the last few years, he's been very stubborn with playing his young players, and he's been very stubborn in trying to maintain that playoff route. And I think, like you said, the Spurs development team hasn't been great. A lot of these guys haven't panned out to be stars. They've kind of been in a situation where they're just stuck in the middle. And I think with this draft, they could have, maybe made a push for an all-star or maybe made some noise, maybe. But then you go out and reach for a Josh Primo. And now if he turns out to be a star, obviously we're going to look like idiots. But even then, you picking that, you were just guessing. Same thing with Kawhi. You pick him becoming a legendary star. That's more to Kawhi than anything. You guys didn't know he was going to be this guy. You didn't know he was going to be one of the best two-way players of all time. You didn't expect that. So I think, like you said, the development team in San Antonio needs to be worked up. They need to be fixed up because right now they're trending towards lottery. And if they keep picking picks like this, they're never going to get back to that Spurs legendary, like that Spurs dynasty that we know them for being, a team that's winning 56 games, making the playoffs consistently. It's not going to get to that point unless they figure out how to draft.
Also, in that Kawhi trade, instead of having the hindsight of, okay, we need to blow it up now, they got back DeRozan, who gave them some good seasons, but it was just a lateral move when they could have gotten back Jakob Poeltl and OG Anunoby, and now had OG as their centerpiece cornerstone player who had a lot of similarities to Kawhi coming out of college.
We don't even know if they'd have developed them right.
I feel like the tough thing here is that these draft picks, aside from obviously these last 2 years, they're not amazing draft picks. even these last 2 years, 11 and 12. Of course, there's teams that hit, and San Antonio has been known for hitting, but it's tough to hit on 19, 18, 19.
I think that's a testament to them trying to stay competitive when they don't have the pieces.
I 100% agree with that. Their inability to accept we are not a championship contender and we're just going to go out every single night and try to win. I respect that more than I respect a team that's tanking like a Philadelphia did. It worked out for them, of course. They got Joel Embiid. They got Ben Simmons, whatever you want to say about him. They got very good pieces by being bad. They refused to do that. They trusted their draft process, and they allowed themselves to stay where they were and continue to play the hardest basketball that they possibly could. And it just put them in that awkward position, like you mentioned, where they're not in a great draft position, but they're not in a bad draft position. And it's tough to consistently keep drafting good players there. And you're 100% right. These players that you listed are not great players. Lonnie Walker never really panned out to what people thought he would be. He's an athletic basketball player at this point. That's just what he is. Then you look at a guy like DeJounte Murray. DeJounte Murray is 100% the best player that they've drafted over these last few years. And he provides a good all-around game, but his offensive game is not one that's going to put them over the top. So, of course, it's not one that you look at and you just think, oh, home run pick, even though he's a solid player. Again, it's tough to consistently draft home run guys in the middle of the pack. It rarely happens. Once they realize, you know what, we're not a good team and we're going to stop competing and we're going to try and drop into that 6, that 4 to 8 range draft picks, that's when I'll start to really criticize their draft process. Because name another team really outside of San Antonio that has hit on guys late in the draft outside of the Bulls in the 90s. It really hasn't happened like that.
Toronto.
You know what? That's a very good one for sure. But
Milwaukee too. Middleton. Well, they got the Giannis
for
really,
sure.
but
Middleton was in the second round, and that's their core right there. But
Memphis too. Dylan Brooks.
But Ja was
Desmond
2. Jaren was 4, wasn't
Brooks,
he?
Desmond Bain.
But that's really their core. Ja and Jaren. That's 2 and 4 right there.
I don't even think Mike Conley wasn't a high pick.
He was a high pick.
What pick was he?
He was a 5th pick.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
He was that high?
I'm just going based off
What draft was that?
off real contenders.
I forgot, but he was that high.
Really?
Yeah, he
What
was.
name are you guys talking about? I'm sorry.
Mike Conley?
Mike
He gives me
Conley.
such a late lottery guy.
No, he was early. I think he was
a
like
5th pick.
Yeah, he was.
Wow. He gives me like 12th, 13th pick.
He's a small dude, but at the same
He's
time,
just regular.
Yeah, he's talented. He's been
It's
talented.
crazy. Okay, I thought.
But you guys understand what I'm trying to say? I'm not trying to
Oh,
keep
yeah, I
reiterating
agree.
myself. It's just that it's very rare you see someone consistently hit.
I mean, I think we're
NBA.
going to see them have a top 10 pick.
Oh yeah, I think it's
Coming
coming
up.
sooner
Takes them to
rather
top
than later.
5 next year.
Top 5.
I think they need to do that, or else they're going to be caught in this continuous cycle and not get any better. When they realize that they weren't that good, they were the first pick in the draft. They are the reason why the draft lottery
they
exists.
weren't that good because D-Rob didn't play.
Very true, but they're the reason the draft lottery exists. Because they tanked for Tim Duncan, the lottery exists. So
Is that true, though? Because Detroit tanked for Grant Hill.
that was
They
who
sat
came
Isaiah.
first? But I'm almost 100%.
You're probably right.
I'm pretty positive.
I'm saying they weren't the first team to do it, though. They sat Isaiah for a season and
the
tanked
fact
for
that they
Grant.
won the championship that first year was what made the NBA notice. All right, if we don't put a stop to this now, teams are just not going to want to play and just sit all their guys and try and get this number 1 pick. It's going to make basketball not entertaining. It's like you want to see competitiveness throughout the entirety, and they haven't done the tanking thing since then. Understandable, they didn't need to. But now they need to understand we're not that same team anymore. We don't have a Tim Duncan anymore, and we need to figure it out soon.
The Spurs signed Doug McDermott and Zach Collins in this free agency.
Yikes.
Their starting lineup next year is going to be DeJounte Murray, Derek White or Devin Vassell, Doug McDermott, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl. Is this going to be the worst team in the NBA?
Arguably. Them, Orlando, probably the Kings. Houston will be fighting for that
You think
spot.
Kings will be worse than them?
No, I'm saying they'll be fighting for that spot. You know how teams be. They could be worse than what they really are.
I think it's between the Spurs, Orlando, and that's it.
I'm just not going to doubt Pop. He'll find a way to make them a 10, 11 seed.
Yeah,
it's just going to happen inevitably.
They're going to win some games for no reason.
They refuse to quit, and that's just been their MO for years. until they show me that they're going to tank, I'm not going to say that they're going to be bad.
I think the Spurs will be a bottom 3 team in the NBA next season.
When's the last time that's happened?
Tim Duncan.
That's crazy.
Tim Duncan.
And this is going to do it for this episode of the Pick a Side Podcast, episode 102. This was our NBA draft recap show. Our next show is going to be the free agency show. You might have these special guests lined up as well.
It's going to be a great show.
So stay tuned for that.
Hope you don't come.
You can find us on Instagram and on TikTok at Pick a Side Podcast and on Twitter at Pick a Side Pod. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time.